Hello, and welcome to another episode of Easing the Badger. I'm Will,
I'm Alex.
I'm Flint.
and today we are covering chapters 33, 34, and 35 of The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. And I've got an insanely long chapter to get into, so I'm just gonna jump right in, y'all.
Do it.
Alright, chapter 33 is called The Dark Waits. The icon for this one is the heron-marked sword again. And we begin this chapter at the end, because RJ wanted to do a little fuckery. This chapter has been confusing readers for 36 years, so I'll try to be clear about the timeline here. Rand is riding in the back of a cart owned by a farmer named Chaim Kinch. They've made quite a bit of progress since leaving Four Kings, and as they get closer to Caemlyn, the villages have started to have less and less distance between them. They pass through yet another village, the locals all waving in a friendly manner to Master Kinch and mingling with each other, dressed in their ordinary country attire, though with a penchant for colorful stripes, with the women wearing deep bonnets that hid their faces. Rand seems kind of bored by it all at this point, one village seeming no different from the next. A little way down the road from the village, they were nearly driven off the road by a large wagon caravan plowing down the center of the road. The guards and drivers not even glancing at the cart, as Master Kinch did his best to keep his wheels from tangling in the hedges. Rand sank down into the straw anyway, though, and clutched to his sword hilt. Once the last wagon had rolled past, Matt turned back from his seat next to Master Kinch and whispered to Rand. His eyes were shaded by a scarf, but he still had to squint in the daylight. "You see anything back there? What about the wagon?" Rand shook his head and Matt nodded to confirm he hadn't seen anything either. Master Kinch gave them a side eye and picked up his horse's pace a little. "Your eyes still hurt?" Rand asked. "Not too bad anymore, thus I look almost directly at the sun. Are you feeling better?" "Some," Rand said, and realized he did, in fact. He thanked the light that he had recovered so quickly. It has to be the light, he thought. Suddenly, a body of horsemen was passing them going the opposite way. Each wore plate and mail with red cloaks and long white collars. Their conical helmets gleamed in the sun, their faces obscured behind a cage of steel bars. Thin red streamers fluttered beneath the heads of their lances, every lance held at the same angle. Some of them glanced into the cart as they passed, and Rand was glad his sword was hidden. A few nodded a neutral greeting to Master Kinch, and he nodded back the same way, but had a look of approval despite his unchanging expression. Once they passed, Matt asked, "Who were they?" with a mix of wonder and suspicion. "What are they doing?" Rand asked. The farmer gave him a look. "Keeping the Queen's peace and upholding the Queen's law." He nodded to himself as if he liked the sound of that and added, "Searching out malefactors and seeing 'em before a magistrate." Ugh. He let out a long streamer of smoke. "You two must be from pretty far off to not recognize the Queen's Guard. Where are you from?" "Far off," said Matt, at the same instant that Rand said, "The Two Rivers." Like a dumbass. Like, really, Rand? Matt gets it right for once and you just blurt it out like that? "That's far off, all right," he said finally. "Almost to the border of the realm, but things must be worse than I thought if there's places in the realm where people don't even recognize the Queen's guards. Not like the old days at all." Rand wondered what Master Alvear would say if someone told him the Two Rivers was part of some queen's realm. The Queen of Andor, he supposed. Maybe the mayor did know, but Rand had never heard anyone mention it. The Two Rivers was the Two Rivers. Each village minded its own business, and when there was something that involved more than one village, the mayors or village councils would sort it out themselves. Master Kinch pulled the cart to a stop. "Far as I go." A narrow cart path branched off to the north, while the boys needed to keep heading east. "2 days will see you in Caemlyn. At least, it would if your friend had his legs under him." Matt hopped down and gathered his things before helping Rand off the cart. Rand felt a little unsteady under the weight of his bags, but as he worked his legs and took a couple of steps, he could feel strength returning to him. Master Kinch didn't take off immediately, though. He studied the boys for a minute before offering to let them stay at his place for a day or two to recover from whatever ailed Rand. Matt narrowed his eyes in suspicion, but Rand thanked the man before declining. He asked how far the next village was, and Kinch assured him they would be able to reach Carysford before dark. After an appraising look, he told the boys that while he guessed they were in some pretty serious trouble, he didn't care too much since he was pretty sure they weren't dark friends, and if they ever need a place to lay low, his farm is about 5 miles northward and nobody ever comes out that way. Matt went suspicious again and was like, "What do you know about dark friends, huh?" Kinch said, "Suit yourselves," set off home. With a glance to Rand, Matt's expression changed to regret. "I'm sorry, Rand. You probably did need some more rest. I just can't get over this feeling that everyone is after us. I just wish I knew why they were." "There's still some good people," Rand said. Matt clenched his jaw and started up the cart path, looking like he was ready to chase down Kinch no matter how much he didn't want to, but Rand stopped him. "We can't afford to just rest. Besides, I don't think there is anywhere to hide." Matt nodded with relief. He tried to take some of Rand's burdens, but Rand refused. He was definitely feeling stronger. "Whatever's chasing us," he thought. Not chasing. Waiting. And here we jump back in time to immediately after they left the Dancing Cartman and Four Kings. It was a dark and stormy night, and the rain soaking them through as Rand led Matt along by the hand, which sounds romantic until you realize it's because Matt was blinded by the lightning that freed them, and he would flinch in pain every time another flash briefly illuminated the night sky. Rand worried that if his friend didn't regain his vision soon, they would never get away. Matt seemed to sense his thought. "Rand," he said, "you won't leave me, will you? If I can't keep up?" His voice quavered. "I won't leave you." Rand tightened his grip on his friend's hand. "I won't leave you no matter what." "Aww. Now kiss!" Thunder crashed overhead, and Matt stumbled, almost falling, almost pulling him down, too. "We have to stop, Matt. If we keep going, you'll break a leg." Matt worried about Goad chasing them, but Rand assured him he was dead, and then tried to convince himself it was true. He led Matt over to a bush they could use for a little shelter. They arranged their cloaks to form a tent. It may have been too late to keep from being wet, but they could at least lessen the incessant pelting of the raindrops. They snuggled up together for warmth and shivered themselves to sleep. "Aww, now kiss!" Of course, now it's time for a Balsamon dream. Rand was back in Four Kings and went back in the Dancing Cartman where a lifeless Goad was propped up at a table. His skin was burnt and oozing, his face shriveled to nearly a skull. He was only recognizable from his ostentatious clothing. As he turned his head, some of his hair cracked off and turned to dust. His lidless eyes stared at Rand. "So you are dead," Rand said. Surprisingly, he wasn't afraid, but he chalked that up to being aware it was a dream. "Yes," said Balsamon's voice, "but he did find you for me. That deserves a reward, don't you think?" Okay, now Rand was scared. He turned and saw Balsamon, his clothes the color of dried blood, his face a battle between rage and hate and triumph. "You see, youngling, you cannot hide from me forever. One way or another I find you. What protects you also makes you vulnerable. One time you hide, the next you light a signal fire. Come to me, youngling." He held out his hand to Rand. "If my hounds must pull you down, they may not be gentle. They are jealous of what you will be once you have knelt at my feet. It is your destiny. You belong to me." Goad's burned tongue made an angry, eager garble of a sound. Rand tried to wet his lips, but he had no spit in his mouth. "No," he managed, and then the words came more easily. "I belong to myself. Not you. Not ever. Myself. If your dark friends kill me, you'll never have me." The fires in Balsamon's face heated the room till the air swam. Alive or dead, youngling, you are mine. The grave belongs to me. Easier dead, but better alive. Better for you, youngling. The living have more power in most things. Goad made a gabbling sound again. Yes, my good hound. Here is your reward. Rand looked at Goad just in time to see the man's body crumble to dust. For an instant, the burned face held a look of sublime joy that turned to horror in the final moment, as if he had seen something waiting he did not expect. Goad's empty velvet garments settled on the chair and the floor among the ash. When he turned back, Baalzamon's outstretched hand had become a fist. You are mine, youngling, alive or dead. The eye of the world will never serve you. I mark you as mine. His fist opened and a ball of flame shot out. It struck Rand in the face, exploding, searing. Rand lurched awake, and the skin of his face felt almost sunburnt. Matt was writhing next to him in a nightmare of his own, and Rand shook him awake. My eyes! Oh, light my eyes! He took my eyes! Rand held him close, cradling him against his chest as if he were a baby. You're all right, Matt. You're all right. He can't hurt us. We won't let him. He could feel Matt shaking, sobbing into his coat. He can't hurt us, he whispered, and wished he believed it. What protects you makes you vulnerable. I am going mad. The early morning was soggy yet, but the drizzle faded with dawn. The morning was windy and miserable in their wet clothes as they set off again. They came upon a village around midday, but skirted well around in hopes that if any of Goad's men had survived, they would think they went another direction when no one in this village had seen them. An hour outside of town, they caught a ride on a farmer's hay wain. The farmer was named Alpert Mull, and his farm was down on its luck, and he complained about it the whole ride. He insisted the queen should do something about it, but still absent-mindedly knuckled his forehead in respect. He hardly looked at the boys, but when he let them off, he said he and his wife didn't want any trouble, and times were too tough to be helping strangers with more than a ride. After making more excuses about why he couldn't help more, though, he pulled out a couple of scarves to hand to them. You don't know me, understand? It's hard times. We never even saw you, Rand agreed, and he took the scarves. You are a good man. Best we've met in days. The farmer looked surprised, then grateful before heading off down a side road, and Rand resumed leading Matt down the Caemlyn road. They made it to another village around nightfall and found their way to an inn. The vibe here was a lot better than at the Dancing Cartman. The clientele was mostly farmers, and while they were drinking, they weren't shit-faced, and laughter filled the common room. Rand was relieved to see the innkeeper was a stout man in a clean white apron. He didn't think he would ever trust a skinny innkeeper again. Rand asked about a room, and the innkeeper, Rulin Allwine, made as polite a mention as he could about them paying in advance. Rand wasn't offended, bedraggled and damp as they were, but when Master Allwine said the price, he nearly choked. The innkeeper seemed regretful, but used to the reaction. Times are hard, he said, in a resigned voice. There isn't much, and what there is costs 5 times what it used to. It'll be more next month, I'll lay oath on it. Rand pulled out all of his money and looked to Matt, who locked up stubbornly. You want to sleep under a hedge again? He asked, and Matt sighed and reluctantly emptied his pockets of coin. Rand grimaced at what little remained after paying up, but 10 minutes later they had some stew and bread and were sitting next to a fire. The portions weren't as big as Rand had hoped, but it was hot and filling. Rand tried to be nonchalant, but kept peering about the room at anyone who came in. Matt complained about the light from the lamps and eventually pulled out the scarf he had received earlier and tied it around his head to shade his eyes, which got them some glances that Rand wished they could have avoided. They finished up and went on to bed, passing out quickly in their clothes almost immediately. They woke up with the crowing of a rooster, and when Matt got up, he exclaimed that he could see again. Mostly, anyway. Your face is still a bit blurry, but I can at least make out who you are. By tonight, I'll be able to see better than you. Again. Rand hurried him along, and they had a quick breakfast in the common room. While they ate, a young man came in with a cocky step to his walk, twirling a cap in his hand. But when he spotted the boys, he dropped the cap and ran his hands through his hair nervously. He approached them and asked if he could sit with them. Rand thought maybe he wanted to share their breakfast, though it looked like he could afford his own. He nodded to a chair. Matt glared at him as he sat, and Rand asked his name. My name? Call me Piter. His eyes shifted nervously. This is not my idea, you understand. I have to do it. I didn't want to, but they made me. You have to understand that. I don't... Rand was beginning to tense when Matt growled, Dark friend. Piter nearly jumped out of his seat, but when he looked around and saw no one else had heard, he sat back down. He was sweating, but didn't refute the accusation. Rand shook his head. He knew now that dark friends didn't walk around with a dragon's fang on their forehead, but aside from his foppish clothes, Piter looked like he would have fit right in Emmons Field. Fuck off, Rand said, and tell your friends too. If you don't, Matt added, I'll name you for what you are. See what your village friends think of that. Rand hoped he didn't, though, because that could get them in as much shit as Piter. He seemed to take the threat seriously, though. I heard what happened at Four Kings. Some of it, anyway. Word travels. We have ways of hearing things. But there's nobody here to trap you. I'm alone, and I just want to talk. About what? Matt asked, at the same time Rand said, We're not interested. Matt looked at Rand and then shrugged and said, We're not interested. Rand chugged his milk and packed up the rest of the bread, and then tried to figure out how to leave the inn without Piter noticing that Matt was blind. He had seen wolves separate a crippled sheep from the flock before. He didn't want the Dark Friends doing that to Matt, and they also couldn't stick around. Piter might be alone now, but for how long? Time to go, Matt, he said, and made sure to distract Piter while Matt stood by getting right in his face and saying, Leave us alone, Dark Friend. I won't tell you again. Fuck off. Piter swallowed hard and pressed his back in his chair. There was no blood left in his face at all. It made Rand think of a murderal. Matt had managed to get up without Piter noticing anything, and Rand grabbed their stuff and followed Matt to the door, which thankfully he could see the outline of clearly enough. Behind him, Piter suddenly leaped up and said, Wait! You have to wait! Fuck off, Rand said without turning around. Just listen to me, Piter said, and put his hand on Rand's shoulder to stop him. Images flashed through Rand's head. Narg attacking him in his home, Murdral ambushing him in the Stag and Lion, chasing them to Shadar Logoth, hunting them in Whitebridge. Dark friends everywhere. He whirled around and said, I said fuck off, and clocked Piter right in the nose. The dark friend fell on his ass and stared at Rand as blood trickled down his face. You won't get away, he spat angrily. No matter how strong you are, the great Lord of the Dark is stronger. The shadow will swallow you. There was a gasp from further in the common room, and the clattering of a broom hitting the floor. The innkeeper had finally heard. He stared at Piter, blood draining from his face, his mouth working but no sound emitting. Piter stared back for a moment, before jumping up and skedaddling like he had a pack of wolves at his heels. The innkeeper then stared at the boys, no less frightened. Rand hustled Matt out of the inn, then out of the village as fast as he could, listening out for an alarm that never sounded. Blood and ashes, they're always right on our heels, Matt growled. We'll never get away. No, they're not, Rand said. If Balsamon knew we were here, do you think he'd have left it to that moron? There'd have been another goad and 20 or 30 bully boys. They're still hunting, but they won't know until Piter tells them. He might have to go all the way to Four Kings to report for all we know. They got a few short rides throughout the day, and some of the drivers had some interesting tales. One man was laughing his ass off at a story he heard about a crazy old innkeeper in Market Sheeran who claimed there were dark friends in town. It was the best story he'd heard in ages. Another one, though, claimed there were 20 dark friends having a meeting right there in the open, all with twisted bodies and wearing rags. He said he'd seen them himself, and if the Queen wasn't going to do anything about it, maybe the White Cloaks should be called. It was a relief when they left his cart. They hit another village that evening and found an inn called the Queen's Man. Rand hesitated outside, thinking about how expensive the room had been in Market Sheeran. Matt noticed and patted the pockets where he kept the balls Tom had given him. I can see well enough now, as long as I don't get too fancy. There can't be dark friends at every inn between here and Caemlyn, and I really don't want to sleep outside if I don't have to. He made no move towards the inn, though, but waited for Rand. After a moment, Rand nodded. They can't be everywhere, he agreed. This place was packed to the brim, though, with travelers and locals alike. It was so loud that once they got the innkeeper's attention, he had to drag them into the kitchen for them to even be able to talk. It's 6 to a room and 2 or 3 to a bed, and if that doesn't suit you, too bad. Rand gave a spiel, though, and auditioned with a quick tune while Matt showed him his juggling. The innkeeper impatiently said, You'll do, and went to clear a space for them to perform. Suddenly, Rand got hit with intense nausea and the shivers. His brain was so foggy that he couldn't think. He collapsed, and after a while was vaguely aware of the innkeeper returning and Matt arguing with him and the cook. But he couldn't make out what was being said. Soon, Matt grabbed him by the arm and led him to the back door. He gave a stuttering apology to Matt, claiming it must have been the rain that got him sick so sudden. One more night out won't hurt, I guess. No way, Matt said. He was just worried people would find out there was a sick person in his inn. I told him if he kicked us out, I'd lead you through the common room and half his rooms would clear out in an instant. Rand asked where they would stay then, and Matt led him to the stable. Matt made a makeshift bed for Rand out of hay at the back of the stable, and Rand lay down, taken fully by the shivering. He quickly fluctuated between too hot and too cold, and Matt disappeared for a moment to go grab some food and water. As he gave Rand some water, he explained that the townsfolk here had never heard of a wisdom, and that all they have is someone called Mother Brune, who is busy birthing a baby somewhere. He tried to feed Rand some bread, cheese, and sausage the innkeeper had given Matt in exchange for keeping Rand out of sight, but simply looking at the food made Rand feel like vomiting. So Matt sat next to him and ate while Rand rested. Matt covered him when he shook and gave him water when he complained of thirst, like a good boyfriend. Bestie. Eventually, Rand had a vision of Balsamon coming into the stable, flanked by Fades, and he shouted, Matt! Matt, they're here! Light, they're here! Matt jerked awake and looked around, but as Rand scrambled for his sword and pointed them out, he realized it was just shadows. There's no one here but us, he said. Here, let me take that from you. He tried to reach for Rand's sword, but he gripped it tighter. No, I have to keep it. He's my father, you understand? He's my father! The shivering took him again, and Matt gave up on trying to take the sword and tucked Rand back into the hay pile. Throughout the night, Rand saw visions of everyone he knew. Egwene taunted him, saying that they were all dead and it was his fault. The Dark One had them because he abandoned them. Moiraine told him he must go to Tar-Valon. Only the Aes Sedai can save him from an eternity chained to a shadow. Tom grinned, wearing charred rags, and said that if he trusted Aes Sedai, he would wish he was dead. Lan asked if he was worthy of his sword, and told him he would have to be, because he was alone now. He saw Perrin, and Mistress Alvere, and Master Fitch, and Min, all in distress. But worst was Tam, standing over him and shaking his head, not saying a word at all. You have to tell me, Rand begged. Who am I? Who am I? Easy, Rand. For a moment he thought it was Tam answering him, but it was Matt bent over him, holding a cup of water to his lips. Just rest easy. You're Rand al'Thor, with the ugliest face and the thickest head in the Two Rivers. Hey, you're sweating. The fever's broken. Rand al'Thor, Rand whispered. Matt nodded, and there was something so comforting in it that Rand drifted off into a dreamless sleep, though still light enough that he heard whenever Matt would check on him. The squeal of the stable door woke him fully, but Matt's chest was rising and falling in a steady rhythm of sleep. There was a woman standing in the doorway, at first just a silhouette in front of the pre-dawn light, but as she entered he could see her more clearly in the lantern light. She looked to be about Nynaeve's age, but was no village woman in her silk dress. She claimed to just be checking on her horse, but asked if Rand was sick and offered to take a look at him as she had some healing knowledge. Rand wondered if she was an Aes Sedai, and if so, of which Aja. She checked on him despite his protestations, and mused that he didn't have a fever, but he had definitely been sick and was still very weak. Suddenly, she reached under her cloak and drew a dagger, lunging over Rand to attack Matt. He lunged aside and got the ruby dagger held to her throat. Rand looked over the scene in a daze, until his eyes landed on her dagger plunged into the wood of the stable where Matt's chest would have been. Black smoke curled up from around it, and the wood was blackening. Rand called out a warning, and upon seeing the dagger, Matt kicked her to the ground and warned her he would use his own dagger on her if she moved. He snatched her dagger from the wall, and it stopped smoking. He handed it to Rand, who held it like a lithe adder, though now that it was free from the wood, it looked no different from any other dagger. The woman didn't move, but Matt's hand tightened on the ruby dagger as he glared at her. "Matt, no!" Rand shouted. "She tried to kill me, Rand. She'd have killed you too. She's a dark friend." "But we aren't," Rand said. The woman gasped as though she just realized what Matt had intended to do. "We are not, Matt." Matt took a moment to compose himself, but nodded. He told the woman to move toward the tack room, and she complied, keeping her eyes on Matt's dagger the whole time. She moved as if she was in no hurry, though, and said, "You really should stop struggling. It would be for the best in the end." "Sure, Jan," Matt said. "Get over there." She gave a casual shrug as she obeyed. "A mistake. There has been considerable confusion since what happened with that egotistical fool Goad. Not to mention whoever the idiot was who started the panic in Market Sheeran. No one is sure what happened there, or how. That makes it more dangerous for you, don't you see? You will have honored places if you come to the great lord of your own free will, but as long as you run, there will be pursuit. Who can tell what will happen then?" "So you're having trouble with a couple of farm boys." Matt's laugh was grim. "Maybe you dark friends aren't as dangerous as I've always heard." "You'll find out how dangerous we are when the Fade gets here," she said, but Matt cut off whatever else she was going to say by slamming the tackroom door in her face and dropping the bar to lock her in. Mention of a Fade got them in gear, though, and they quickly gathered their things and left the stable. On their way out, Rand dropped the woman's dagger into a bucket of water, and it gave off a loud hiss and steam rose. About a mile outside the village, Rand's strength gave out, and he collapsed, pulling Matt down with him. Matt rolled them both to the side of the road and said, "We have to keep going. Someone will let her out sooner or later, and they'll be after us again." Rand was panting as he let Matt pull him to his feet, but he knew if he took even one step, he'd fall again. Matt held him upright, and he waited impatiently as a horse cart passed him, but to their surprise, the cart stopped. "Something wrong with him?" the man asked around his pipe. "Hey, guess who this is? It's the guy from the beginning of the chapter. We've now come full circle. And that's the end of chapter 33.
Now kiss.
Now kiss!
A kiss.
I gotta say, I was not picking up on that quite as much until you said it, and then I was like, wait, they are lovers. Aw.
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked. This is the chapter that launched 1,000 Cawthors.
I bet.
I want to know. The dark friend woman sounds so fucking competent. What made her think that using the excuse of wanting to check on her horse in the middle of the fucking night was gonna work?
Yeah, yeah.
Goons. Hench people.
Yeah.
None of these dark friends are
They're not
the best and brightest.
They're not the brightest ember in the fireplace.
They're not really thinkers.
No.
Especially Piter, the dumbest dark friend who ever lived.
Oh, we all know that he was killed for that. he was absolutely killed for fucking up that bad. I think he was like a brand new convert. Like this was his first job.
Mhm.
Like just blurting it out in the middle of the fucking common room. Like,
Such a fucking idiot.
Yeah, it was. We talked about this before we started recording, but it was very disorienting to start at the end of the chapter and then work our way up to it. I don't entirely know why. Like it wasn't. I mean, and it's it is what it is. But I don't see why unless it was just to switch it up a little bit. But up to this point, the book has been pretty easy to read. It's been pretty easy to follow what's going on, follow the plot, even with the POV changes and everything like that. It's been pretty simple. It's been pretty easy to follow along. No, not here. I kept making notes. I was like, where are we? When are we? How long has it been since Four Kings? And like with the thing with the scarves, I was like, so are these the scarves that they had, or are these more scarves?
yeah.
I-
That's the thing. Like there are dozens of Reddit posts you can find out there being like, what's the deal with the scarves? Why does he get more scarves when they already had scarves?
Yeah.
People have to lay out the timeline all the time.
Yeah.
Like a simple like half a sentence could have been like it could have alluded to the fact that we were jumping back in time.
Mhm.
But there's no extra line break
Yeah.
on the text. There's no like symbols there denoting any kind of shift. It's just the next paragraph.
No, 2 days later. None of that.
I read, this was the only book that I read in hard copy. And I remember being so goddamn confused. Even just reading it in hard copy, I stopped reading and messaged Will to make sure I was not like, it was a brand new library book, by the way. I was the third person to check this book out. It was a hard copy paperback, and I still double checked to make sure I didn't lose pages. Like and the way that particular book was written, it was on a page turn. So I literally had it. I was double checking, make sure I didn't lose pages. I was so goddamn confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is something like I've had to explain basically every time I've had a new reader friend, and will until the end of time.
Did it have to be explained to you?
I don't remember, honestly. That was so long ago at this point.
Yeah.
I can't recall if I struggled with the chapter then or not. Because yeah, this is the only one that I read hard copy as well. Like, and I'm still using my hardcover version of it to take notes for this one. Because after this book, I switched to ebooks.
I have the entire 14 book set on my Amazon wish list.
Oh yeah,
because I have to have hard copies.
Someday.
I love hard copies of books so much.
Yeah. Protect physical media.
For sure. Oh, yeah. No, my favorite series, my favorite author, I've got over half of her books in a hard copy and on audiobook.
Nice.
So I can just, when I'm reading at home and then I want to listen to it at work, I can just pick up where I left off at home. And
now I'm pretty sure that at some point I heard that this chapter got edited in a later publication.
You mentioned
to
that
where
before.
to where it got like rearranged. But like I don't know, I've been using the old hardcover to take notes, I'm also listening to the Rosamund Pike audiobook, and her version has it the same way. It's not edited. Like
the Kate and Michael versions aren't edited either.
Yeah.
That's what I listen to.
So I have no idea what edition would be edited.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it was the one they came out with at one point that split The Eye of the World into 2 books to make it more friendly for younger readers. But I'm not sure. So, listeners, if you have any information about that, please let us know.
I was going to say.
Otherwise, maybe I just made up a fake memory at some point.
No, I found it.
Okay.
Oh, never mind, listeners.
Y'all can keep shit to yourselves.
I mean, this was a loose Google search, so any additional input is welcome. Basically, what this says is, obviously we know the original, but there is a 2002 split edition when the book was published in 2 volumes, From the Two Rivers and To the Blight, and a new prologue / chapter titled Earlier was added. Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Maybe I thought the extra prologue for that one was the one called Ravens.
Hang on.
We might. I still haven't decided if we should touch on that. It's, no spoilers or anything. It's just an additional prologue that's like from Egwene's POV as like an 8-year-old just wandering around the Two Rivers. I really enjoyed
that personally.
Oh, interesting.
It's cute, but there's no like meat to it, so
no.
We can decide later if we want to cover that.
It's just a bit of history and world building, but it was enjoyable. This does mention that, but it's mostly talking about the editorial differences of those chapters that we were just talking about. So
okay.
I think that's what it's supposed to be getting at. Again, listeners, please correct or enhance our knowledge if I am wrong, which I most likely am.
Also, listeners, please feel free to like reach out to us at any point. We would absolutely love to hear from anyone who's listening.
Absolutely.
Please do.
By email, by social media.
We love opinions. We have them all the time.
All of our links are in the link tree in our descriptions.
These poor boys.
They are going through it.
Right. So then
so
it starts at the
fucking break.
No, they really can't. So it starts at the end and I'm like, Jesus, Matt, he's just trying to help. And then I get through the rest of it and I'm like, well, okay. I get it. Because everybody who seems harmless has been out to fucking get them. How horrible. While Rand is sick with God knows what, and Matt is blind because lightning struck him almost. Like,
and he's already been acting weird for a while anyway.
Right.
I feel like he was so close, the point blank to that lightning strike, that Matt should have some cool lightning scars. I'm just saying.
That would be pretty sick.
I'm just saying.
I don't think they actually touched him, though.
I know.
No, but he said he saw it strike the iron bars on the window, so almost.
So, because he was at the bars, which he obviously was not touching the bars at the time. That would have changed a lot of shit real fast.
I'm sure it felt like all of the hair was about to jump out of his follicles.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's lucky he didn't turn as white as Tom in the hair. Just saying. I do have to applaud your performance, Will, because your Matt voice jumped around an accent everywhere, and I was here for it.
Listen.
At one point,
I don't have a.
I'm just trying Scottish, okay?
I don't know accents. I'm doing my best here.
That's fine. They differentiate somehow.
Matt, though. That's just it. It was just Matt. Rand was really consistent, and Matt kept jumping around.
Matt is every woman, so that's fine.
That's fair.
I don't know. I'm kind of trying to emulate the actors from the show, and Matt had 2 actors, right. So I can't decide which one to emulate.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fair.
Just do it at random. Whatever.
So, I still think that Pater died for what he did, because Goad had him and let him get away, and look what happened to him. And we can assume Pater is much lower.
Well, I mean, Goad died from like the lightning and the inn burning down.
No, I'm talking about Balzamon's reward.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was not a reward, that was a punishment. I guarantee you he had Pater killed for that. Well, show me your cup. I keep seeing a sticker on it and... Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay. The yin yang, so I only see the white part when you pick it up.
Yeah.
And
this is a sticker from shout out to another Wheel of Time podcast, Queers of Time.
It's pretty.
Love them.
But every time you pick it up, I only see the back edge of the white, and it looks like a Minnesota Vikings logo, and I'm like, that can't possibly be it, because you don't do sports ball.
No. Not at all.
That would
No.
that would be so funny
I
if you don't do sports, but
desperately-
you just have a Viking sticker. That would
I
be so funny.
desperately needed
No.
confirmation that it was not the Viking horn.
Uh-huh.
Because for our listeners, I am from Minnesota and I do in fact do sports ball.
Yeah, so you can talk to us about that, but
Yeah.
talk to her.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I just
It won't be
I've seen
either
it the
of
last
us.
couple of episodes, and I'm like, I need confirmation because this is driving me nuts. And you picked it up in the middle of your reading, and I caught my attention again. I literally almost interrupted you for it.
To talk about the dream with Goad, and then
Yeah.
his body disintegrates, and it says that he had a look of like sublime joy or something, and then replaced by horror. And I was like, members of a death cult when they die be like, because I'm so fascinated and terrified by like death cult ideologies, right? Especially for someone like the leader or the figure that they worship to be like the master of death, and to be like, yeah, of course you can have this reward, and then it's not what they think it is because nobody really knows, right? So
Right.
what did he see? What did he see? Was it damnation or was it oblivion? Either would be equally terrifying
Yeah.
to someone who
Yeah.
presumably sees death as a reward, as an ascension to somewhere better, right? For it not to be that way. And it had me thinking about like the Left Behind series and rapture theology, and how it seems like apocalyptica, the end of days, all of that is like something to look forward to, which presumes that you would get to go there, that that you
Right.
wouldn't have to be stuck here while the earth splits apart, and there's fire and the four horsemen everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very unsettling look or view on death that it gives me the heebie-jeebies. I'm not a fan. But like, I hope you liked it, Goat. Whatever.
And then there's also just like the more mundane death cults, like, oh god, I'm blanking right now. I just listened to a podcast about it a couple of months ago. That one cult that all died because of the Hale-Bopp comet. They thought it was gonna like pick them up and carry them off or whatever.
Yeah, I know what
Mhm.
Carry
you're
their
talking
souls
about.
away
I've
to
heard
heaven.
that one.
Was it Heaven's Gate? Is that the name of it, or is that a different one? There's so many cults.
There's so
I can't
many.
remember.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I have heard of the one you're talking
yeah,
about.
I mean,
but I
that
don't
was
know
like-
the name of it.
That one was like during our lifetimes, like
Oh.
when we were in like elementary school.
Elementary school. Yeah.
Yeah, it
was
was like
Heaven's Gate.
97, 96.
Was Heaven's
Okay.
Gate, okay.
Okay.
It says
And they were all wearing Nikes.
Of course. yeah, it says the mass suicides in 1997. So
That puts the whole "just do it" catchphrase into a whole new spin.
oh god.
Uh-huh. No.
Oh wow.
Seriously, if anyone is curious about this, I recommend a podcast called Deadly Faith. Look for their episode about it. It's fascinating. And yeah, just this idea of like looking forward to this posthumous reward
Mhm.
and then getting it and it not being what you wanted is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
It says just before they all died, the group had a website, and it says it said Hale Bop brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with, I think it's Ty's crew. Awful. And they just died. And that's it.
Yep.
I hate it. Oh, and then Balsamon does say that the grave belongs to him, right?
Yep.
Easier
Uh-huh.
dead, but better alive.
Yep.
Which means, I don't even remember when I asked this about like necromancy. It must exist here, but maybe again, it's just like something that only he can do, as work with a particular element or something. I don't know. But I don't know what it means if not reanimating the dead. I don't know about like resouling them, perhaps, and that's why being alive is like living people have more power or whatever if souls exist here. I don't know. But I don't know if not reanimating the dead to have them do your bidding is not necromancy. I don't know what is. That's just what seems to be implied by what he says all the time.
Yeah, Balsamon has made mention on multiple occasions that he has some sort of power over death. We don't know the extent of that yet by any means, but there's something, and it's definitely intriguing. So yeah, then we get to the next one, and fucking Rand is just hit with illness out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking damn near dying. Like, 1 minute he's auditioning with the flute, and then he's fucking collapsing with the shakes. Like, what the fuck, man?
I'm making a note and I'm marshaling evidence. That's interesting. Yeah. And he just attributes it to the rain. And then he's like relieved that he gets over it so quickly and hopes that it has something to do with the light, which I thought was interesting when he said it, because it's like, does being associated with or close to like the true source or the one power or whatever it is, however that proximity is, does it grant you like immunity from most illness? But we haven't seen her get sick really. We've seen her get tired, from channeling, but never like not sick. She doesn't really seem to get like even a cold. So I'm not sure. And maybe even if they did, I guess I'll find out. But I assume there's got to be like a medical corps in the Aes Sedai, like medics.
There is capital H healing,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So maybe that's what it is. And maybe but yeah, because then I was thinking about that. And maybe if there are like healers, then I don't know if they would be working just on people who don't channel. If people who do get like resistance to sickness. But if they don't, then, obviously they would have a lot of work to do, especially in places where there are more people around. I need anthropology of this place. I need sociology of this place.
And say that would be even if they were trusted to do said healing too.
Mhm.
Because we've seen a lot of, negative feelings about Aes Sedai
Mhm.
as they've traveled. It's not just, centralized to the farther out areas. You see it as they get near and nearer to Caemlyn. You're seeing it as well. Maybe not as hard nosed about it, but you still see it. So
Mhm.
I don't think I have much else on this chapter.
For all the talking that Will did.
I know, like there's a lot to the chapter, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
One thing I definitely want to touch on is that dark friend lady's dagger.
Yeah.
That's
Holy
sick
shit.
as shit.
Holy
Like
shit.
that, I think that's the first like enchanted item we've seen, right? That we know for certain.
Because we've seen like Angrials and we've seen Moiraine use her staff, but even then those are things to focus her power.
Right.
They're
Right,
not
just the
enchanted
channel
in and
through.
right. They're not enchanted in and of themselves. So I think the dagger having something independent, like to itself, yeah.
Mhm.
Sick.
Yeah.
Cool as fuck. Scary. Like he threw it in the
Yeah.
water and it started hissing. Wow. How do I get one?
Right?
Gotta be a dark friend.
Well,
But also like
Or kill a dark friend who has one.
it was kind of dumb that he just tossed it like right outside the barn, because like once someone lets that lady out, she'll be able to find her knife again pretty easy. Like I understand he wanted to get rid of it as soon as possible, but like maybe hide it from her at least.
Well, I wonder, because it's like,
I'd have wrapped that son of a bitch up and brought it with.
yeah, it's only like when it's in somebody's hand that it looks like a regular dagger. As soon as the blade touches something, it like burns and smokes.
Yeah.
So I think that wherever he got rid of it, she would have been able to find it probably. Just look for like a scorched circle in the ground. But yeah, you would think that he would take it a little bit further away, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, neither one of them were in their right minds. They were just kind of waking up, and It happened very
and
fast.
Rand was still sick.
One thing I did note, I did like reading this chapter is just hearing how people talk about the queen, and how like they'll touch their forehead or like the queen may the light illumine her. And it immediately made me go, oh, like the Tisroc, may he live forever from Narnia. It's immediately what I thought of. Like, do they have to say that every time they mention her? Because that would be so cute.
I have not read Narnia since I was like 11.
I had to look up what the name of the ruler was. I forgot what it was. But so yeah.
I didn't even make that connection. I just always associated it with like God Save the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they mention the Queen, God save her. You know, right. that's the association I always put with the light illuminer.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I get it.
No,
I didn't even make that Narnia connection. I should have. I read Narnia quite often.
It just popped in my head. Yeah. May he live forever.
Right. Also,
Rand, I need for you, babe. The bit is so funny. I need you to stop talking about how fat and skinny innkeepers are. I need you to quit. It's so funny, but you gotta stop.
You cannot trust the skinny one, though.
Never.
You gotta stop. But the thing is Hake was a bad person because he was a bad person. He wasn't bad because he was skinny.
Correlation does not equal causation.
He was mean and skinny. It gets me every single time. Robert Jordan, excellent bit. But
I mean, okay, but think about it though. Like, you're running this inn, you're gonna be eating your own food all the time.
If it was good,
you'd probably gain a couple pounds.
It's like they say, never trust a skinny cook, never trust a skinny innkeeper.
I don't know. But every time I see it, I cackle. Like, Rand, you gotta stop, babe.
Will read that, and I immediately looked up to see if you were making a reaction. You were not. I was disappointed.
No, it's funny every time.
Every time.
But, babe, you gotta quit. You gotta stop. You can't just say that about people.
I mean, in Rand's defense, he is keeping it all in his head.
That's true.
He's not saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, not to be the cop who lives in his head, but...
Thought police.
Can you just imagine Rand just like getting to an inn after like being chased and him see the innkeeper and outlaw just going, oh, thank the light, you're fat.
Right. That's, yeah. Yeah.
I love you, you fat, bald bitch.
Like you
can just see him running into the wine spring inn after this whole thing's over and hugging Master Alvier.
Mm-hmm. Like, you would not believe the skinny people I've had to deal with.
Me every day out in the world.
Girl. I'm looking to see if I have any other. Oh, when they're going, just a little thing. When they're going and they keep hearing different stories, I'm like, this is the worst game of telephone ever. Actually, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
I heard it was 1. No, I heard it was 20. Stop.
And I saw them with my own eyes.
They're all dressed in rags.
Right.
And I didn't even get into detail with that one, talking about like the women were even uglier than the men. Like, come on.
Wow.
You've heard of fish tales. You've heard of dragon tales. Now let's hear dark friend tales.
Mm-hmm. Dark friend tales, dark friend tales.
Oh
man, shout out to Dragon Tales.
Right?
That was my shit.
It was well past my time and I still watched that shit.
Oh, last thing, I promise. Just when Matt is helping Rand and he says there's no wisdom there. That was interesting to me, because I assumed up to that point that wisdom's like every village or everybody had one, or at least some kind of medicine woman. And I guess they do, but they don't call it a wisdom. So now I'm wondering if that's something because I think that Moiraine knew what a wisdom was when she got there. So is it just only like medicine women in the two rivers are called wisdoms or what? I'm not sure, but that I did notice that. I thought that was interesting.
Right.
Just some woman called Mother Brune.
And is that her name, or is Mother Brune their word for a wisdom?
Or whether they're all called Mother.
Right.
Yeah, based on the spelling, I would think her name is Brune and her title is Mother.
Right. But yeah, that is interesting.
As for Rand's sickness, I have theories, and we'll sit on it for now while I assemble more evidence as we go.
Oh, fine, be that way then. Should we move on?
Okay, twist my arm, why don't you?
Okay, so chapter 34 is titled The Last Village. The chapter icon is a Trolloc skull with a cobalt trident on the left and well, please correct me if I pronounce this incorrectly, a daimon fist on the right.
Sounds good.
Okay. Which we have seen this before, back in chapter 18. And it indicates shadow spawn, usually mostly specifically Trollocs, but shadow spawn in general. It is the dark of the night when Rand and Mat reach Carysford. It had taken longer than Rand had expected from what Master Kinch had told them, and he wondered if his sense of time had been messed up. 3 days since Howell Gold and Four Kings. 2 days since Payder and Market Sharon. And barely one since the murder attempt by the dark friend woman at the Queen's Man. All of it seemed to have happened ages ago. Carysford seemed normal enough, with light spilling from vine-covered brick houses. As it was after dark, there was barely anyone on the streets, but Rand and Mat still stuck close together and still moved from shadow to shadow, remaining in place if someone were heard to be heading their way until they passed. The boards of the rickety old bridge rattled and creaked as they crossed it, Rand waiting for the shout of a voice at any moment demanding to know who they are and worse yet, already knowing. The bridge crossed the river Arryn, I think it is supposed to be, and led out of town. And as they traveled, the countryside filled up and showed itself to be more settled. The light of farms were common now. It was full enough to make Rand always feel as though they were on the outskirts of a village, even when there were none anywhere nearby. Abruptly, Mat sat down in the road. He had pushed the scarf up on top of his head, now that the only light that came from the moon. 2 paces to the span, he muttered. 1,000 spans to the mile, 4 miles to the league. I'm not walking another 10 paces unless there's a place to sleep at the end of it. Something to eat wouldn't be amiss either. You haven't been hiding anything in your pockets, have you? An apple, maybe? I won't hold it against you if you have, but could you at least look? Rand checked up and down the road, but they were the only ones around. Nothing else moved. His own feet hurt and his legs were weak. He had noticed some haystacks in a field and pointed them out to Mat. Mat complained about haystacks again, but got up and followed Rand. As Rand tried to settle into a little hollow he had made in the hay, he thought about how many haystacks he'd slept in since Whitebridge. Heroes in stories never had to sleep in hay or under hedges. He couldn't lie to himself and pretend anymore. This was not some grand adventure, and he was not in a hero's story. Once they're settled in, Mat asks Rand if he thinks they'll make it to Caemlyn. Rand says yes. It was only 2 days from where Master Kinch had set them down. They'll probably be there the day after next. Mat suggests that there may be a ton of dark friends waiting for them down the road, or even a Fade. Then he tells Rand that he thinks they're the only ones still alive. Rand dismisses this with a shake of his head, though Mat couldn't see it in the dark, and tells him to go to sleep. When the boys awoke and rolled from the hay, Rand found that there was already a steady trickle of people on the road, even though the sun wasn't even truly up yet. Mostly young men, but a few girls, some road-weary, others with a mission of excitement in their eyes. Mat asks Rand if he thinks they'll get something to eat today, and Rand notices Mat's eyes are shaded a little less by the scarf. He replies that they can think about that on the road. As they headed towards the fence, Mat finally notices the people, and stops walking. A young man, not much older than they, glanced at them as he passed. His clothes were dusty, and so was the blanket roll strapped across his back. "Where are you bound?" Matt called. "Why, Caemlyn, for to see the dragon," the fellow shouted back without stopping. He raised an eyebrow at the blankets and saddlebags hanging from their shoulders and added, "Just like you." With a laugh, he went on, his eyes already seeking eagerly ahead. Throughout the day, Matt asked others the same question. Most gave him the same answer, unless they were locals. Then they were lucky they even bothered to spit in reply before turning away. Locals were put out by the steady stream of travelers. Just enough of them filled the road to slow their already slow wagons by about half. Merchant drivers, on the other hand, had no problem using force, such as their whips, to make the travelers on foot move. At one point, a whip cracked at Rand, who'd already been out of the road, and could have taken his eye had he not had just a fraction of warning and sense enough to dodge to the ground. Matt started to shout at the wagon driver, but a mounted guard hit him on the shoulder, knocking him down on top of Rand. "Out of the way, you dirty dark friend," he growled. They did their best to avoid the wagons after that. There wasn't always a way to keep their distance, however, and Rand was struck on the eyebrow by a driver's whip. Rand nearly vomited as he clutched the spot, thinking about how close he had been to his eye. He had to stop Matt from attempting to shoot the driver, who just smirked at him as they went past. A few times, squads of Queen's Guards came down the road, trotting in their polished armor, banners streaming. Locals would hail the guards and ask them to do something about all the travelers on the road. The guards always listened patiently, and once Rand decided to stop and listen to the conversation. Behind the bars of his helmet, the guard captain's mouth was a tight line. "If one of them steals something or trespasses on your land," he growled at the lanky farmer frowning beside his stirrup, "I'll haul him before a magistrate. But they break no queen's laws by walking on the queen's highway." "But they're all over the place," the farmer protested. "Who knows who they are or what they are? All this talk about the dragon." "Light man, you only have a handful here. Caemlyn's walls are bulging with them, and more coming every day." The captain's scowl deepened as he caught sight of Rand and Matt standing in the road nearby. He gestured down the road with a steel back gauntlet. "Get on with you, or I'll have you for blocking traffic." He'd been no rougher to Rand than he had with the farmer, but they skedaddled anyway. Rand could feel his eyes on him for a time, and he decided that if Matt suggested stealing eggs again, he'd stop him. The one benefit to all the people on the road is that it was easier to hide from dark friends. Since so many other travelers were young men as well, and since the Fade on winter night hadn't known who it was looking for, the one here likely wouldn't know either. He was hungry, though. They had next to no money, and prices this close to Caemlyn were high. They couldn't perform either. Goad knew about their performing, and Rand had to assume that he had told Balsamon everything before he was ended. He also had to assume that that information had been passed along to other dark friends. They passed farms, some with patrols of farmers and dogs at their fence lines, some not, none offering work. They also passed through 2 more villages that day. The village folk standing in knots whispering about the travelers who may or may not be followers of the dragon or dark friends, but all fool enough to not know to stay where they belonged. At the second village, the amount of people thinned as those with money went into the inn. The rest found hedges or unguarded fields. By nighttime, they were alone on the road, and Matt wanted to find a haystack. "As long as we can see the road, the further we go before stopping, the further ahead we are," Rand said, and it was something Matt couldn't argue with, and took off, Rand having to scramble to keep up. On they went. Matt's eagerness did not last long, however, and the complaining soon began. Rand, too, was wishing to stop. His calves had aching knots. He tried to convince himself that he'd walked more doing farm work in a day, but he knew it wasn't true. Between his distraction and Matt not shutting the actual fuck up, they were almost in the village before they realized it. Stopping, Rand felt pain shoot from his foot and up his leg, positive he had a blister. At the sight of the village lights, Matt sagged to his knees with a groan. "Can we stop now?" he panted. "Or do you want to find an inn and hang out a sign for dark friends or a fade?" "The other side of the town," Rand answered, staring at the lights. From this distance, in the dark, it could have been Edmund's Field. What's waiting there? "Another mile, that's all." "All? I'm not walking another span." Rand's legs felt like fire, but he made himself take a step. Then another. It did not get any easier, but he kept on, one step at a time. Before he had gone 10 paces, he heard Matt staggering after him, muttering under his breath. He thought it was just as well he couldn't make out what Matt was saying. It was late enough for the streets of the village to be empty, though most houses had a light in at least one window. The inn in the middle of the town was brightly lit, surrounded by a golden pool that pushed back the darkness. Music and laughter, dimmed by thick walls, drifted from the building. The sign over the door creaked in the wind, and at the near end of the inn, a cart and horse stood in the Caemlyn road with a man checking the harness. 2 men stood at the far end of the building on the very edge of the light. Rand stopped in the shadows of a house with no lights. They were trying not to be seen, and he was far too exhausted to search for a pathway around the brightly lit area. He watched the 2 men from the shadows, felt uneasy, but he couldn't say why. He also noted that the man at the cart felt the same way. He would go through his cart and tack, checking everything, pretending to adjust things here and there, purposely keeping his eyes turned away from the 2 men in the shadows. When he finished his checks, he'd start all over again. Rand observed that of the 2 men standing in the shadows, one was wrapped all in darkness, but the other was more in the light, and it was clear he was nervous during their conversation. Eventually, the one in darkness turned away and left. The other stepped into the light, wiping his face with his apron. The one moving away into the night gave Rand an uneasy feeling, such as making the hairs on his neck start prickling. He scolded himself, however, for being as paranoid as Matt, but in that moment, as the figure slipped past a lit window and the sign on the inn creaked in the wind, Rand saw that the figure's cloak did not move. "Fade," whispered softly. Matt jumped to his feet as though Rand had yelled it, and Rand had to cover his mouth to keep him quiet, reminding him to speak softly. He looked around, but it was gone, or so he thought. Rand listens to a conversation between the nervous man, who we learn is Ryman Holdwyn, and the man at the cart, Almen Bunt. Blunt begins by observing that Holdwyn has some strange friends for an innkeeper that stand in the dark. He observes that his friend clearly isn't from around these parts, and Holdwyn takes umbrage to that, saying he knows men even from Caemlyn. Holdwyn goes on to explain that his friend is from 4 Kings and is looking for some young men who stole a heron-marked blade. Blunt exclaims, in a clearly sarcastic manner, that no wonder he wants a heron-marked blade back. Holdwyn continues, agreeing without noticing the sarcasm, and goes on to say that he wants the young men too, that they're troublemakers and dark friends and followers of Loghain as well. Blunt repeats back what Holdwyn described with amusement in his voice, and verifies that he said they were young. Holdwyn says yes, they were not yet 20, and that there's a 100-crown reward for the 2 of them. But they're dangerous, vicious even, so if Blunt sees them, he should tell him, and he'll let his friend know, and his friend will pick him up. He repeats again that it's a 100-crown reward, but it has to be both of the young men. Blunt mused about the reward, and then asks how much for the sword. It was then that Holdwyn realized that Blunt had been making fun of him this entire time, and abruptly changes the subject. "I don't know why I'm telling you. You're still fixed on that fool plan of yours, I see." Blunt replies that it's not so foolish. There might not be another false dragon before he dies, so he's going to Caemlyn. Tonight. He'll have the road to himself and no dust in his face from the merchants. Holdwyn scoffs about the road not being safe at night, and Blunt replies that if the Queen's Guard can't keep the road safe this close to Caemlyn, then none of them are safe, even in their own beds. And if you ask me, one thing the guards could do to make sure the roads are safe would be to clap that friend of yours in irons, sneaking around in the dark, afraid to let anybody get a look at him. Can't tell me he's not up to no good. Afraid? Holdwyn exclaimed. You old fool, if you knew... His teeth clicked shut abruptly, and he gave himself a shake. I don't know why I'm wasting time on you. Get off with you. Stop cluttering up the front of my place of business. The door of the inn boomed shut behind him. As the old man moved to mount his cart, Rand moved and approached, but Matt grabbed his arm, asking if he was crazy, and saying the man would recognize them for sure. Rand asked him if he wanted to stay there when there was a fade around, and asked him how far he thinks they'd get otherwise. He pulled free of Matt and approached the cart, addressing the old man. I couldn't help overhearing you're going to Caemlyn. Rand had startled Blunt, and he pulled his quarterstaff from the cart. His leathery face, with half its teeth missing, looked them over before he lowered the end, and asked if the two of them were going to Caemlyn to see the dragon. Rand then realized that Matt had followed, and he corrected Bunt, saying, the false dragon. Of course, he replies, replacing his staff and with a glance at the inn, and told the boys to climb in if they wanted a ride. As he had wasted enough time, Rand hopped in, and Matt scurried to catch up and get in as the cart began to move. As they rode at a decent pace, the town disappeared behind them, and the boys were feeling their exhaustion, but remained alert and wary. Soon, Blunt began to speak. You two ever been to Caemlyn before? He gave a little chuckle. Don't suppose you have. Well, wait till you see it. The greatest city in the world. Oh, I've heard all about Ilian and Ebu Dar and Tyr and all. There's always some fool thinks a thing is bigger and better just 'cause it's off somewhere over the horizon. But for my money, Caemlyn's the grandest there is. Couldn't be grander. No, it couldn't. Unless maybe Queen Morgase, the light illumine her, got rid of that witch from Tarvalon. Rand sat halfway up and turned to look at Bunt, asking if he's an Aes Sedai. What else would I mean? Sitting there in the palace like a spider. I'm a good queen's man, never say I'm not, but it just isn't right. I'm not one of those saying Elida's got too much influence over the queen. Not me. As for the fools who claim Elida's really the queen in all but name, he spat into the night. That, for them, Morgase is no puppet to dance for any Tarvalon witch. Rand thought that maybe Moraine would go to another Aes Sedai when she reached Caemlyn, and should the worst happen, perhaps she might help them reach Tarvalon. Bunt goes on to yammer about how things have to change, how bad the crops are, dragon fangs on doors, ravens, etc. Rand barely hears any of it, lost in thought as he was about things creeping in the night. Bunt went on. Right. I'm a good queen's man, and I'll stand against any who try to harm her. But I'm right. You take the Lady Elaine and Lord Gawain now. There's a change wouldn't harm anything and might do some good. Sure, I know we've always done it that way in Andor. Send the daughter heir off to Tarvalon to study with the Aes Sedai, and the eldest son to study with the Warders. I believe in tradition, I do. But look what it's got us last time. Luke dead in the Blight before he was ever anointed first Prince of the Sword. Tigraine vanished, run off or dead, when it came time for her to take the throne. Still troubling us, that. There's some saying she's still alive, you know. That Morgase isn't the rightful queen. Bloody fools. I remember what happened. Remember it like it was yesterday. No daughter heir to take the throne when the old queen died. Every house in Andor scheming and fighting for the right. And Tarangal Damodred, you wouldn't have thought he'd lost his wife, him hot to figure which house would win so he could marry again and become prince consort after all. Well, he managed it, though why Morgase chose. No man knows the mind of a woman, and a queen is twice a woman, wed to a man, wed to the land. He got what he wanted anyway, if not the way he wanted it. Brought Kyrian into the plotting too before he was done, and you know how that ended. The tree chopped down, the black-veiled Aiel coming over the dragon wall. Well, he got himself decently killed after he fathered Elaine and Gawain, so there's an end to it, I suppose. But why send them to Tarvalon? It's time men didn't think of the throne of Andor and Aes Sedai in the same thought anymore. If they've got to go someplace else to learn what they need, well, Ilian's got libraries as good as Tarvalon, and they'll teach the Lady Elaine as much about ruling and scheming as ever the witches could. Nobody knows more about scheming than an Ilianer. And if the guards can't teach Lord Gawain enough about soldiering, well, they're soldiers in Ilion too. And in Shinar, and Tyr for that matter. I'm a good queen's man, but I say let's stop all this truck with Tar Valon. 3,000 years is long enough. Too long. Queen Margaze can lead us and put things right without the help from the White Tower. I tell you, there's a woman makes a man proud to kneel for her blessing. Why, once... Rand tried to fight off sleep. His body was screaming for it. He needed to stay alert. The wagon, the rocking, and the drawing on of Bunt sent him into a sleep where he dreamed of Tam. In the dream, they were at their table at home, and Tam was telling him about prince consorts, daughter heirs, and the dragon wall. And suddenly he was back in the woods, pulling Tam's litter again. But when he looked back, it wasn't Tam on the litter. It was Tom, sitting cross-legged and juggling. The queen is wed to the land, Tom said as brightly colored balls danced in a circle. But the dragon is one with the land, and the land is one with the dragon. Farther back, he saw a fade coming towards them, with severed heads of Moraine and Lan hanging from the saddles. The fade had tethers in its hand, each connected to Mat, Perrin, and Egwene, who were bound and walking behind the silent horse of the fade. Not her! Rand shouted. Light blast you, it's me you want, not her! The half-men gestured, and flames consumed Egwene, flesh crisping to ash, bone blacking and crumbling. The dragon is one with the land, Tom said, still juggling unconcernedly, and the land is one with the dragon. Rand screamed and opened his eyes. He saw a shape blacker than night on his chest. A raven. You are mine, it said, and then stabbed forward, plucking out his eye. Rand screamed, his throat tearing as he clutched both hands to his face. It was early daylight, and he was in a daze. There was no blood, no pain. The rest of the dream faded as he felt his face. Mat took note of him waking and said, At least you got some sleep. He talked all bloody night. You all the way awake? Bunt said from the driver's seat. Gave me a start, you did, yelling like that. Well, we're there. He swept his hand out in front of them in a grand gesture. Caemlyn, the grandest city in the world. And there the chapter ends.
Almen Bunt, shut up.
I've never met a man who knew when to shut the fuck up. Love the concept, but I've never met one.
I had to directly quote so much because there was so much world building lore drop in what he was talking about that there was no way for me to condense it down properly. I had originally, I know I told you guys I had two really long chunks. The other long chunk had originally been the conversation between Bunt and Holdwyn, and I was in a much better place mentally today that I could do a good job of condensing that part down. So I quite literally reduced that last half of my chapter by over half. But Bunt, for the fuck's sake, shut up.
Like, I can't get over the kind of crazy levels of misogyny in the statement, no man can know a woman's mind or whatever, for one thing. Like, stop acting like women are crazy, like, mysterious beings that you can never understand.
An absolutely different creature.
Yeah, a foreign species. Yeah, I don't understand women. I don't know. Have you tried asking?
Right.
Have you tried asking? Have you tried talking to a woman?
Like,
nobody wants to talk to you? A woman doesn't want to talk to you? I can't imagine why.
I wonder. But then the statement, and a queen is twice a woman.
Wed to a man, wed to the land.
Wed to a man and wed to a land. Being married is what makes her a woman? That's what makes a woman, is who she's married to. Okay. You live in a matriarchal country and you're being this misogynistic?
Yeah. Just goes to show, I guess. It's, it's cultural, it's environmental. And he's old. But it's You know, and he couches every criticism that he makes in, but I'm a good Queens man.
Right.
But I'm a good Queens man.
Which I thought was so interesting. I'm like, what is the function of this phrase? Is it like, because all he does is talk about the things he thinks she's doing wrong, and yet he's like, you won't catch me speaking against her. Like, I support whatever she decides. I'm like, do you though? Like, what is the function of the phrase? Is because it just kept popping up. Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's like people complaining about the U.S. and being like, but I'm proud to be an American.
Mm-hmm.
No, the fuck I am not.
Yeah.
That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah. Imagine we make like a political side podcast.
Right.
People are not going to want to hear what I have to say.
No.
No.
Anything I said, you would have to bleep out most of it anyway. There would be no actual listenable content.
No, they would get me for treason. So I better keep that to myself.
As soon as McCarthyism starts again, we're black bagged. Mm-hmm.
Flint would get got for treason. I would have to be bleeped every other word. We wouldn't make it past episode 1.
Right. The conversation between Bunt and Holdwin, the innkeeper, where he says they're looking for someone who stole a Heron Mark sword. Like, fuck, that's smart. Oh, God damn it. Right? Oh, that's clever. And so there's two boys, one of them with a sword, constantly looking over their shoulders. Motherfucker.
You see them, you tell me. If they're the right ones, you get 100 crowns.
Right.
Like, the sword already sticks out like a sore thumb, because why does someone that young have a Blade Master's weapon?
Right.
Even for those who wouldn't
possibly have earned it.
Even for those who wouldn't recognize it as a Blade Master's weapon right away.
Do I know what a Blade Master is?
From a bit of a distance?
Oops, maybe not.
I don't think I've seen what a Blade Master is.
No, I thought we've mentioned it. I thought it's been mentioned once.
I don't think so.
Well, now you know they're connected.
Yeah, no, because I think one of the first times you talked about the Heron Mark emblem, you said it was the emblem of the Blade Masters for one of your chapters.
I did last time.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what a Blade Master was. That's okay. I mean, I can infer.
Yeah, that's pretty much, honestly, that's pretty much all there is to it. They're Blade Masters. I don't think that's much of a spoiler at this point.
No, it just gives me more questions that I can't ask because I won't get any answers. So it's fine.
Ask them anyway.
I will say, if it makes you feel better after reading all 14 books, I still don't feel like I have answers about that. So.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Then never mind. It's cool.
But my point was, what I was saying is, even if someone couldn't identify it as a heron marked blade from say farther away, it still seems weird to me that a young man who looks and dressed like Rand would have a sword.
Right.
If we go back to the last Perrin chapter, just the fact that a country boy had a decent axe at all, made Perrin stand out.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Oh, I don't remember if they said it specifically, but they suggest or imply that the White Cloaks think he stole it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Yeah.
It's where did you get this?
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I hate how smart that is. Oh, man.
I feel like knowing that it's a fade, fades are in my opinion, intelligence-wise, at least one step up from your average dark friend. Yeah. Because I don't think a dark friend would have come up with that fucking lie.
Mm-mm.
At least not the country dark friends we've met so far.
Right.
Mm-mm. No. But then it's especially where when they're talking, he also says it's two young boys. Yeah. Not yet 20. Like, God, they're kids.
Right.
The whole time they're kids.
Yep.
God, that sucks.
They're babies still.
Which is also part of why Rand stands out with the hair and mark blade. Like,
Yep.
how is he like
That young.
19? How is he 19? And presumably a blade master, whatever that is. Yeah. No, and it really, actually, these 2 chapters, I really started to feel for Matt in a way that I had not up to this point. And maybe it's because he was such a sad little meow meow when he was blind. I don't know. It really got to me. It really got to me. I was like,
also not in addition to that, the way we see him take care of Rand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's another shift in the personality we've been seeing up until this point.
Right. Right. It's another dimension to his character. Yeah.
Right.
Matt might be like a massive shit, but he absolutely has a caretaker streak within him.
He does.
Right. Whether it's just for Rand or whatever, whether because they've been friends for so long. But yeah.
Can I mention just like a little thing that they did in the show that you don't see in the book? I don't really think it's a spoiler, but it is touching on that Matt caretaker thing. In the show, they give Matt little sisters. Young girls. And
he has little sisters.
Right, but we don't see that in the book. Whereas in the show, you see him playing with them, indulging them, caring for them. I think what he's doing, actually, I think the scene I'm specifically thinking of is he's trying to like distract them from the scary shit. I can't completely remember, but I remember watching that in the show, and I make that connection with this Matt, this caretaker of Rand Matt, and it's very endearing to me, and it is something that I love about Matt.
Yeah. Well, and it does say at one point when they're traveling and he's doing his juggling, or they're doing it for the kids at that farm, I think, with the girl who was really trying to get at Rand. And he says he always seemed to enjoy or soften maybe or enjoy performing for children.
Yeah, he really likes
children.
Kids.
Yeah, he really likes kids.
He does like kids.
Yeah.
He was always like suspicious and shifty around any adults, but as soon as a kid showed up, he would soften.
That paranoia would decrease a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely something that I like about him.
Yeah. And it's, and he you won't leave me behind, will you? If I can't keep up? Of course not, Matt. Don't do this to me. I'll cry right now. I'll cry right here. Like a baby. Of course not. He's also just a kid.
Yes.
And they're in love.
And they're in love.
When the guard knocks Matt down on top of Rand, I thought about doing Will's joke of now kiss.
Now kiss. You should have. It'd be really funny. It would have been really funny. Yeah.
I almost did. Oh, also, side note, speaking of stolen jokes, the Whitebridge joke, my phone has written that word so much, it now tries to correct the street I live on to that.
Nice.
Don't dox yourself now.
I'm not. But the first part of my street is white, and then it's all one word, like Whitebridge is. So every time I go to write my street name, it pops up Whitebridge.
That's so
because
funny.
You live in Whitebridge.
Because I now live on Whitebridge Avenue or whatever it is. The bridge, not the city.
Of course. Obviously.
But yeah, I noticed that I was entering my address because I bought one of those Father's Day shirts for Jay that's like, Happy Father's Day from your little tiny tyrants, and it's like got all 3 cats on it with their names and stuff. So
Cute.
I was entering my address and I went to enter my street name and it tried to correct it 3 fucking times.
Yeah. Did you mean Whitebridge?
Yeah, did I mean Whitebridge? Do I want to put down Whitebridge Avenue? Yes, I do.
Fantastic. I guess that's a benefit of me doing my summaries on the computer and not my phone. I'm not poisoning my autocorrect.
Also, I cannot write. I could screenshot this and show it to you because I take my notes in Samsung Notes. I cannot write the word Caemlyn Road the two words together without it trying to hyperlink it and bring up a map. I have had
Because
to
it's
start making the A in road the @ symbol to keep it from hyperlinking it. I have tried everything. I've tried multiple spaces. I have put other like symbols in between. It keeps highlighting it and linking it.
because
Like,
it's a real
Like,
place.
I mean, it might be honestly because you know, sometimes you'll find those little neighborhoods where they name everything after like locations in the Shire and shit.
Mhm.
There's at least one I know of that has Wheel of Time
I've
stuff. Like
never
I've seen posts about
actually
it.
like clicked the link to
There's like an
see.
Ogier Road and shit like that. I don't remember exactly what all they are, but there's at least one location in the US where a bunch of streets have Wheel of Time names because whoever was developing that neighborhood was
No,
a dork.
I click it and it just opens up my Google Maps and takes me directly to home.
Ah.
Because you live on the Caemlyn Road in Whitebridge, of course.
I guess, yeah. You know, going back to the beginning of my chapter, Rand thinking about like how long it had been since each of these main events had happened. 3 days, 2 days, barely 1 day. I get it, man. That is a lot of shit to happen in 72 fucking hours. And
Yeah.
I can absolutely, it probably seems like it happened over a year ago and then also just minutes ago. You know, like
Mhm.
at this point, this boy cannot imagine life without this shit happening. And it's skewed his sense of time.
Yeah. Imagine his nervous system right now.
Yeah, he needs a nervous system reset.
Yeah. Shambles.
For sure.
Oh, another thing. With the mention of Elida, I think this is the first time another woman has gotten an actual name since Isla with the travelers, with the traveling people. I think.
No, because we had the family he juggled for, and their oldest daughter was named.
Oh, that's true.
And
Yeah.
I mean,
Her name was
Elsie Grinwell.
Say it again.
Elsie Grinwell.
Elsie. Yes. Okay. So 3 women since the last time I talked about it. I think.
yeah.
Yeah, Dark Friend Lady never even got a name.
No.
Mm-mm.
I mean, why would she? But
I'm sure she has one. And besides more gays, of course.
Yeah.
The light illumine her.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, her daughter, Heir Lane, her son, Gawain's mentioned.
Love this.
Tigraine is a runaway queen.
Yeah. Love the concept.
I love that name, by the way, Tigraine. I
love the concept of a daughter heir. Love that. It's called primogeniture now, actually. It's giving Chicago. I live.
Yes.
I live for it. Yeah. And the prince consort? Absolutely. Absolutely. Shut up, Pole.
Yep. Did it go into what Gawain's title is?
Yes, it did
First
say
prince
it.
something?
First Prince of the Sword?
Yes,
okay.
It did say it.
I wasn't
Yes.
sure if it
if
it
yeah,
said that right there.
Yeah, and that
because it says Luke was dead. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, we've learned
and
that
then Tarangale Damodred, whose name for some reason made me fuck up the rest of that sentence.
Just got a little bit of aphasia. It happens.
Yeah, so we learned that in relatively recent history there was a succession war.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the former daughter heir just kind of fucked off apparently. And so Morgaze had to come to power, take power, and then married Tigraine's Tigraine's ex-husband, Tarangale.
Mm-hmm.
I got confused on which name was which there for a second.
I did. I wrote down. I was like, "This is a lot of names."
Girl, I made you walk me through it like 4 times the first time. I did my read through. I made I remember being like way deep in the series and being like, okay, remind me again.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably have to review these things regularly.
That was a hot fucking mess. That War of Succession was, let me tell you. Just what Bunt told us, he's as a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, where is that? Give me that. I want the Succession Crisis. Show me.
Robert,
I would
try
love
and
to
give
know.
us the prequels.
Well, he can't, but whoever took over.
We learned that they send the daughter heirs to Tarvalon to study and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And also First Princes of the Sword, right? That's what it is. First Prince of the Sword.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where they learn from
the
warders.
Warders.
Mm-hmm. Which
So,
is,
given that title, what do you think that means?
I don't know if it's, I'm trying to think of like, presumably, and we'll see more about this, I think, in my chapter. Yeah. But the Queen's Guards have like Captains General, and I don't know if that's the highest rank in the Queen's Guard. So whether the First Prince of the Sword is like the part of the royal family, and then also the head of the personal guard or the military, if the guard is also the military, if there is one.
Right.
I'm not sure. It's interesting that they would have to be that they go to learn from warders if he does not himself become a warder. It's like, when did that arrangement start? Because like Bunt talks about, 3,000 years is long enough for Tarvalon to be so closely tied to Caemlyn. But so like, whose idea was that to start sending the daughters to learn both, like both the daughter heir and the son, whichever son, I don't know if all sons or just the first one, the firstborn son, go to Tarvalon, and then because like presumably they don't go and then are loyal to Tarvalon over like their own mother, presumably. Right. So it's I wonder whose idea it was to have that arrangement. But as far as like what the First Prince of the Sword is, I guess it'd have to be like, a lead warrior.
Yeah.
Of some sort, like charged chiefly with protecting the crown or the family or Caemlyn or whatever.
Or, as you said before, possibly like head of the army or something like that. I think that is, I mean, those are reasonable conclusions to come to for sure. But yeah, I was just curious what you thought about it.
Yeah.
Like I said, Bunt goes through so much. There's a lot there, but I think the biggest thing is his discussion of the tie-ins between the royal family and Avandor and Tarvalon. I think that is.
Yeah, it's definitely like the meat of the chapter. I think
it is.
It's really like the densest part.
It is.
Just because there's
chapter just kind of leads and builds up to that.
Yeah, there's so much baggage to all of it that you're only just skimming the surface of here, and we're well into the book at this point. Yeah. To hear Elida's name for the first time, for example, right? And all of this other stuff, Elaine and Luke and Tarangale, all of it is. I think we've heard Damodred's name before, but yeah. So it's really dense,
right?
Also, hella tone shift between like that, and then I just wrote twice. Come on, body horror, when he brings Egwene up and then sets her on fire, and then he wakes up into another dream where a raven plucks his eyeball out. Like, come on, body horror, awful.
And can we make the connection that in the last chapter, Matt woke up screaming about his eyes being taken?
And the same thing happened to Perrin in a previous chapter.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true.
When he was with the Tinkers still, I believe.
Was that the last chapter we had on the last episode? Was it all 3 chapters in a row?
No.
Okay. Because we had switched POVs. I had the last Perrin chapter, and then you two had random Matt chapters.
Right.
Because it was the last Perrin chapter was, well, wait.
I was just wondering, because that would have been interesting if they'd made it 3 chapters, like, in succession like that.
Was Eyes Without Pity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the last?
Yep.
No.
Or was it?
It's the last one is.
It was the one after that.
Play for Your Supper is a Rand chapter.
Yeah.
Children of Shadow. Yeah, chapter 30. Okay, yeah. that's got the
that was
sunburst
when
on
the
it.
white
Yeah.
claw
Okay.
showed up.
So yeah, because the one before that is the chapter before that was the last chapter that we did for another episode, and that was the one where they're chasing and being chased by the ravens.
Right.
Yeah, and he has the dream then. Yep.
Right. Well, alrighty then.
But, we don't necessarily know how the timelines align. They could have... That parent dream could have happened the same night as either Matt or Rand's dream.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something else that interested me about this chapter is how much Bunt knew that the innkeeper was just full of shit, that he didn't even really question welcoming the boys onto his ride right after he had just been given their description.
I wonder if he could see them all that clearly.
Well, the square was in light. It was well lit.
Oh, was it?
That's why they stopped in the shadows. I specifically said that
Mm-hmm,
Rand was too tired
right.
to find a way around.
Right.
Basically, he was waiting for everyone to leave so they could just cut across.
Yep.
When all that happened. So yeah, he could see them clearly too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he must have just thought that the innkeeper was full of shit,
Right?
and
Or at the very least knew what his so-called friend was.
Yeah, suspicious as fuck.
Right. I mean, he knew it was suspicious enough to make sure it was clear he was not paying attention to them while they were talking. Right?
Yep.
The book specifically says that he would deliberately do something and make sure his back was turned to them, even though that wasn't like the easiest way to do whatever it was he was doing. So he's not a dumb man, that's for sure.
To be honest, I do kind of want to know what else Mr. Bunt said while he was yapping all night. I do kind of want to know.
After Rand falls asleep?
Yeah. And Matt just says he talked all night. I'm like, well, what did he say then?
We should just have... The
I'm
next
interested.
chapter should just be...
I don't know.
Should be a Matt chapter of like the rest of it.
Yeah. I want to know. Like, Matt may not care, but I do.
Right.
Knowing old men like Bunt, he probably looped back around and said the same shit over and over.
Probably.
He is absolutely an Abe Simpson character.
Yeah. I'm a good Queens man.
I'm a good Queens man.
Don't get me wrong.
And we've been doing this for 3,000 years, but it's time something changes. Send him to Ilion.
God, imagine 3,000 years. He's right. That is a long time. What the fuck? That's so long.
It is long.
That's 1,000 years older than like the Christian, like the Catholic Church. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Wasn't the breaking of the world only 2,000 years prior?
No,
that was 3,000.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think 1,000 years after,
right after the breaking of the world.
I think 1,000 years was after that was the Trolloc Wars, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then 1,000 years after that was Arthur Hawkwing.
Right.
Yeah. You said, yeah. So it must have been right after the breaking that it maybe Caemlyn existed before, and just kind of is where things centered around.
Right, where things repaired.
Yeah. But I don't know how close Tarvalon is to Caemlyn. So if they can just like send their scion of the royal family there, I'm not sure how close they are.
Pull up that
now at
map
this point.
and look.
So like it would make sense, but then I don't know why people wouldn't just, again, unless Tarvalon also existed before the breaking, which I don't have any reason to believe it didn't, I guess. Why the royal seat would then need to be somewhere else.
Right.
Tarvalon is not terribly far away from Caemlyn. Yeah, the road goes straight there.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'll screenshot this part of the map and send it to the chat so you can see in detail.
But there's no like scale or anything, right? Oh, it is kind of just right there, isn't it? Okay. Whoop.
God, I want a full, like, massive wall poster of this.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And Caerlyn is over that way. Okay. And there's the hand with the crystal sphere in it that Doman talked about. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, this is cool.
That's not even the whole thing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, here's the full version of this map.
Wowie zowie.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that's just Andor. Wow.
So if you zoom in, you can see like right to the west of where the word Andor is,
Uh-huh.
there's White Bridge.
Yeah.
And then a little northwest of that, there's the two rivers.
Okay.
So you can kind of see how far they've gone.
They've been going east this whole time. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And then they'll go north. Okay.
Yep.
Hmm. And he wasn't lying. The two rivers is right there on the edge. Oh, I thought that was interesting too, where he was like, you don't recognize the Queen's Guard, even though being in the two
Yeah.
rivers. I was like, that's so interesting. And it's like the two rivers, everybody there handles their own business.
Yep.
And it's like, they must not be that concerned about security, but then why would they be? Because
Yeah.
I guess the Trollocs hadn't shown up since the Trolloc Wars. Like there's not, there doesn't seem to be like a lot of violence there. What are the crime statistics for Emmons Field, actually? Sociologists, get on this.
They are technically part of Andor, but
only just
it
barely.
seems
There
they
hasn't
haven't
been a tax collector in 6 generations. Or 8. It was one or the other.
Yeah. So
only just barely. Oh God. And Barlon is right there. It seemed like it took so long to get to Barlon.
So canonically speaking, the distance between Caemlyn and Tar Valon is somewhere between 550 and 650 canonical miles.
Wow.
So
that is quite far.
Which would take another conversion because a mile is different in world than it is in real.
Right, that's why I was calling it a canonical mile.
They did mention it in, was it my chapter, I think? And I don't think I added it in the notes. Yeah, it talks about like, oh God, I'm gonna have to find that. There's like a span, and so many spans is a mile.
Oh, maybe. I don't remember.
And like, I don't know. It definitely lays it out in the glossary.
Matt talks about it in my chapter.
Your chapter,
Yeah.
Okay.
He says you won't walk another span, which is so many paces, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like so many feet to a pace, and then so many paces to a span, and so many spans to a mile.
Okay.
And yeah. RJ made a whole unit of measurement for this world, and then also like in world, I don't think it's come up in the story yet, but so it's just flavor. A week is 10 days.
Oh, I did not know.
So if you ever hear them talk about a week, that's 10 days and not 7 days.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
So this, according to like the fandom, is like 10 inches, which is the same as 3 hands. So our 10 inches is 3 hands, which is equivalent to a foot, our foot. And then 3 feet to the pace, 2 paces to the span, 1,000 spans to the mile, and 4 miles to the league.
1,000 spans to the mile.
Yeah.
Which is 3,000 paces?
2 paces per span. So wouldn't that be
2,000? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a lot of paces. It's a lot of walking.
It is. But this fandom, actually, this fandom site converts everything from like our miles into their miles. It's kind of interesting. It's got like a whole table.
Cool.
Right.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
Who knows anymore?
That's quite a tangent we got on. Whoops.
Yeah. Gotta love world building.
I know. It's like catnip.
Well, we were originally, this started because we were talking about the sending of the royal children to Tar Valon and how far away it was and stuff.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long that's been going on for.
Yeah. Whether it's been going on the whole 3,000 years.
Right.
And then how they pick.
I mean, I don't even... Because, like, I'm not sure how long after the breaking started that the White Tower was formed. Because everything got destroyed in the breaking,
That's
you know?
the point.
Mm-hmm.
So...
maybe it started as, like, a gesture of goodwill and trust between them, and it just became a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the world is broken, we need to rebuild trust. This is a way we can do it.
Mm-hmm. So then I wonder if it's like that in all royal seats. If there's an Aes Sedai, like, looking at that map, if there's one in, like, in Caemlyn. If there's one in any place that's supposed to be, like, the center or the seat of power in a region, in a realm. I wonder.
Right.
That's a good question that we'll have to find out more about later.
Mm-hmm. Presumably, hopefully.
Anything else in this chapter you guys want to talk about?
I think that's it.
We've well and truly covered it.
Plus a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. My turn. Yay. So, chapter 35 is called Caemlyn, and the chapter icon is a lion on its hind legs against what shows up in my ebook reader as a black background. Full disclosure, though, Bunt's yapping did make me check the glossary to find out what Andor is exactly, so I'm pretty sure that this emblem is the sign of Andor, the royal coat of arms, as it were. The glossary says it's a rampant white lion on a field of red, and I remember enough about heraldry from one unit in elementary school that I knew it had something to do with how the emblem specifically was positioned. So I looked it up. And a beast rampant is one that's depicted standing up with the forepaws raised, like it's going to bring him down on something. It's also the way that most quadrupeds that don't have wings and are not horses are depicted. They have different terms for those. So thanks to whoever taught me that like 25 years ago. You're a real one. Anyway, I'm sure you won't be surprised to know this, but this chapter finds Matt and Rand finally in Caemlyn. They've made it. Oh my god. Rand is gagged the house because every time he comes to a new major city, it's like an order of magnitude bigger than the last one. Even beyond the walls of the city are enough buildings that it seems like multiple villages have been set down there, houses and inns, all on top of each other, building up because there's no more room to build out. Baerlon, Rand thinks, could have fit in just this massive buildings outside unnoticed, and Whitebridge, the town, not the bridge, 20 times over. The wall itself is also massive, 50 feet high, and extending so far to either side that the ends aren't even visible, like this place is big as fuck. The text says 1,000 stories had painted cities in Rand's mind, the great cities of kings and queens, of thrones and powers and legends, and Caemlyn fit into those mind-deep pictures as water fits into a jug, which I've never heard that simile before, and I think that I love it. Master Bunt's cart carries the boys into the city along a road jam-packed with people, going past unwalled markets under a stone archway big enough to fit 10 Moiraine Zillas. Big as fuck. Bunt says the city, at least the inner city and the palace anyway, were built by Ogier because Caemlyn is that old of a city as well. A castle town for the monarch of the realm will be like that, I suppose. Matt hates it, though, wanting to know how they could hide effectively in this mass of people with nobody around them they can trust. Rand calls him a wool-headed idiot, which is so sheepherder of him, and replies that nobody could find them among so many others, especially other dusty, musty, crusty young men with cloaks. Matt thinks that everyone is dead, and nobody will find them in Caemlyn, since, in case we forgot, it's been weeks, if not months, since Shatter Logoth, which is the last time they saw any of their friends, the Wisdom or Moiraine and Lan, alive. In any case, into the city they go, past a half-dozen guardsmen posted simply to control the flow of traffic and prevent trampling. Inside the city, the Caemlyn Road transforms into a boulevard split by strips of foliage. Come on, urban development. Rand notices that even though the grass is brown and the trees are bald, people acted as if nothing was wrong. But, like, what even could they do about something like that? Bunt's cart then turns down a side street before he stops to turn and look at them, asking what Rand is hiding under his cloak, whether it's a hair-and-mark blade like he'd been told to report to that innkeeper. Rand plays it cool, and Matt grabs his dagger again, because why not stab a dude right after he brought you all the way to Caemlyn? But Bunt is like, you know what? Never mind. If I wanted the reward, I could have turned you in, but I don't like Holdwyn or that weird-ass friend of his. Rand insists he's never seen that fade before, which I guess is probably technically true. And Bunt again is like, I don't want to hear. I don't want to know. Please don't say you're sorry. The boys get off of the cart, and Bunt gives them one more piece of advice, specifically to hide or even get rid of that sword. After all, a heron mark blade is bound to draw attention, and anybody with eyes can see that Matt and Rand want no attention. They want no smoke, even though smoke wants them real bad. Bunt leaves after that, and Matt demands to know what to do now, how the others could find them. Rand insists that Moiraine will find them, but like Matt, he is feeling the effect of being around so many people in broad daylight. He tries to find the void, like Tam taught him. Remember that? But it doesn't work. So he focuses instead on the street in front of them, which almost seems like a road in Bearlawn, the last place they all thought they had been safe, as though that wasn't literally the first time that Ba'alzamon contacted him. Anyway, Rand reminds Matt that Tom had told him to seek out the Queen's blessing once they were in Caemlyn, but Matt says something so heartbreaking. Wherever we go, they're right behind us, or they're waiting for us. They'll be at the Queen's blessing, too. Nothing's going to stop a fade. Matt, stop. I'll cry right now. Rand tells him that they've made it this far and demands to know whether Matt plans to stand in one spot until he starves or until the people after them come take him and walks away. It isn't long before he's joined by Matt, who says that he can't stop thinking about how he'll never see his home or his parents again, that they'll die here. Rand retorts that the wheel turns, everybody dies, but he's not going to wait for it to happen all curled up and helpless. It works for now, and they keep going. Trying to get directions to the inn, though, is difficult to say the least. When they're not being cursed out for being somewhere they don't belong by people who are pissed that so many newcomers and strangers are here, they're just getting shrugs or blank looks or ignored outright. All around them are people, and the descriptions of the fashion here make me want so many lookbooks. Pointed hats, hats with feathers, veils, dresses like cages and like lingerie. I'm fascinated by all of it. Carriages come through sometimes as well as sedan chairs carried by Pullman who just shove people aside, which I get. Those bitches have got to be heavy, even if there are like 4 of you to carry it. A brawl gets started, though, which the boys avoid with a quickness. They were approached several times by people offering trinkets, relics of Logain, fragments of his cloak and sword, and so on. Around them are plates and cups with scenes that they claim are the false dragon being displayed before Queen Morgase in chains. And of course, here again, are fucking white cloaks. Awesome. Rand is worried about keeping his sword concealed, but he does notice that in addition to travelers like them, many others carried swords as well, wrapped in strips of cloth around the sheath and the hilt. Knowing that following local fashion would enhance their camouflage, Rand gives a clothier some of their constantly dwindling money to buy some cloth. He's able to wrap up his sword, but Matt complains the entire time about how people will be trying to cheat them or rob them. He wants to leave now, for Tar Valon or even Ilion, but Rand isn't leaving Caemlyn, not without the others. Eventually, they start getting directions to the Queen's blessing, and eventually, the directions get more helpful. Until at last, they find an inn with a man kneeling before a woman wearing a crown on the sign, with one hand of the Queen resting on the man's head. They've made it, finally. Rand notices that the innkeeper is fat, because Robert Jordan is not letting up on this bit. But he seems welcoming enough, and he tells him that his name is Basil Gill. Basil, maybe. Rand says that Tom told him to come to him for help, and Gill's smile disappears. He says that he does know Tom, and takes them through the back into the kitchen, where the boys remind me of the cartoons where they have like the guy floating through the air, licking his lips because something smells so good. That floating along. But he takes them out of the kitchen, then to the stable yard, before he finally asks them what's in the case that he can see Rand carrying. Rand shows him Tom's flute, and Gil demands to know how they got it, because Tom would never part with it. Rand shows him the rest of Tom's things, all bundled up in his cloak, and tells Gil that Tom is dead. Ouch, by the way. But Gil says he'll only believe that Tom is dead when he sees a body. I too would love to believe that Tom is alive, but, well. Anyway, Gil says that telling someone to come to Caemlyn is the last place he'd expect to see Tom at all, and asks if the boys are in trouble with the Aes Sedai. Knowing Tom, Gil knows that he'd jump into that kind of trouble, especially to help boys that are Rand and Matt's age. Gil does ask what sort of trouble they're in, and Rand realizes that he's asking whether the Aes Sedai want to gentle them. To be honest, it's a good question, but Rand reassures him that it's nothing to do with the One Power. He even mentions Moiraine's name, but cuts himself off. Oh my god. Though Gil gives no sign that he recognizes the name at all. Better Aes Sedai than the dragon, he says, and tells them that he'll give them beds and food, but he can't promise them anything else. Rand says it's more than he expected, looking at Matt like Gil is suspicious, which again I get, but please just let this guy be a friend. The boys are tired, I'm tired, and Will, I'm sure, is also tired of dark friends everywhere. Gil advises them then to avoid talking about Aes Sedai helping them, because there are many in Caemlyn, even beyond the White Cloaks, who wouldn't take it well. Matt says the Ravens can take all the Aes Sedai to Shaiol Ghul, which, okay, seems like a bit much, seeing as how it hasn't been Aes Sedai hounding you within an inch of your life for the entire book so far, but whatever. Gil tells him to watch his fucking mouth, and I agree. He lays out the situation regarding Aes Sedai and Caemlyn. Queen Morgase supports Elaida, her advisor, and the guards stand for the queen. Lately, he says, some guards have gotten rough with people they hear speaking against Aes Sedai while off duty, and Gil wants none of that fucking up his vibe, so keep your thoughts to yourself, Mathim. He then says that it's probably best they don't mention Tom either, and Rand finds it difficult to believe that Tom could have trouble with the queen of all people. Gil laughs as he tells them that even among gleemen, already a conceited sort, Tom had even more conceit, though perhaps in his case specifically it is warranted, because Tom used to be court bard, known in every royal court in Randland. Not long after Tarangale Damodred died, Gil says, came the trouble with Tom's nephew. Tom was closer to the queen than a court bard should be. Okay, Tom, I see you. But Gil says that the queen can do as she likes, and that includes having a court bard courtesan, perhaps. Period, ma'am. But Gil tells them how she's always had a temper, and Tom left without a word to help his nephew, then had some rather fighting-seeming words for the queen when he came back. On top of that, interfering with Aes Sedai business put him on Elaida's shit list as well. And between the two women at the top of the heap there, Tom skedaddled right on the fuck out of there. Rand muses whether anybody remembers, but Gil assures him that they will. After all, the current Captain General of the Queen's Guards commanded the guardsmen sent to bring Tom back after he left the first time, and he was pissed when they came back empty-handed only to find that Tom had already been back and then left again. The Queen herself was so pissed, he says, that everyone walked and talked quietly for a month. Better to keep Tom's name to themselves, just like Moraine's. Gil changes the subject then, saying that he'll take the boys to get them something to eat, because they're giving starvation chic. They're giving ravenous boots, honey. They're giving famine the house. They're giving, please, sir, may I have some more? And the chapter ends. He says, I can see your stomach touching like your back or something. They're so skinny. Skinny legends.
We finally
we love
made
a
it.
skinny queen.
Yeah.
Just not a skinny innkeeper.
Right.
Correct. Bitch. Rand. Stop it. Stop it right now. Kills me. Kills me.
Basil Gill.
Yeah, he seems
I
like
love
fun.
Basil Gill.
He seems
I like
like
Master
fun.
Gil. I think.
So we got.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we got some interesting goings on in Caemlyn that we're finding out about.
Tom lore.
We got Tom lore. We've got selections of colors. That was this chapter,
yes,
right?
It was. I don't think
that was
Bunt
before they got to the.
it.
It's red and gold, right?
Red and white.
Red and white. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think, the colors of Caemlyn. Or, of Andor, I guess, right?
Andor,
those are the colors on the banners.
Yeah.
Oh, that seemed like, it didn't seem all that significant to me, but I guess that it is. I don't know. Given the way that you brought it up. I don't know.
I know, it's just everyone has one or the other, but not really both. So.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. That's
okay.
kind of how it's described.
I might have missed it. Okay. Then yeah, that makes sense that it's more notable that he picks both colors. And anybody paying attention would then know also.
Yeah, no, Tom lore specifically. we find out he was court barred. That's significant.
And
Mhm.
pissed the queen off.
Yeah.
Because he ghosted her. They was fucking, and he ghosted her.
Which, like, okay, Tom, I see you. But also,
Did he, though? Like, he came back. He left with the intention of coming back. Was that really a ghosting?
I was just being dramatic.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I looked again. It says all the Caemlyn men, some of the strangers had their swords wound in strips of cloth, red bound with white or white bound with red. And Rand picks red bound with white.
I was just looking
Right,
at
yeah,
that
it's
too.
not one color or the other. It's
the way it's done.
The specific way it's done, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, no, love more Tom lore.
Yep.
And that he apparently had good reason to be as full of himself as he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately.
So wasn't it like even, didn't it at some point like indicate that even like Moiraine seemed to think there was more to him than just a simple gleeman?
Yeah.
I think so.
There's an allusion to that.
Maybe because she saw his flute at some point, perhaps.
Possibly.
I don't know. That's ancient history. It's
Yeah.
a long time ago. Because by the way, this is episode 11. We did not mention last episode that it was episode 10, but this is episode 11.
It is.
So episode 1 is a very long time ago.
Yeah. Been doing this for almost half a year now.
Mm-hmm. I think
It
so.
does not.
When did we
seem
start
like
recording?
that long. Didn't we start in January? Maybe February. But I thought it was late January.
I have
It was late January.
my first chapter summary that I did in Word for chapter 8 says I modified it January 24th. So we started recording these to post them in January.
Yeah.
But it's only been live since March, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Caemlyn's pretty fucking big.
Huge, massive. It made me think of like the Forbidden City in Shanghai or like Istanbul in terms of like scale and grandeur. That's what it made me think of. Like those big, big, big cities.
Yep.
You know, like with historical weight.
Right.
Because Istanbul is centuries old,
Yes.
millennia even, right? So is Shanghai and the Forbidden City, you know.
Istanbul is actually very, very close to how I picture Caemlyn myself. So I kind of feel that.
Mhm.
I feel like I put it on the sort of architectural scale as Shadar Logoth, but bigger. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's funny every time Rand gets to a new city. He's like, "Oh my god, this is the biggest city I've ever seen." And he gets to another one. And he's like, "Oh my god, this is the biggest city I've ever seen."
The last big city I was in could fit in this one X amount of times.
Like, babe, I don't know how much bigger can you get from here?
Oh, Rand.
This is like I don't know. It's like Columbus.
He's such a country bumpkin.
Or the Twin Cities or something. It's massive. It's got to be huge.
Yeah. No, I was actually thinking that. I'm like, this sounds like if you put a wall around Columbus and all of its suburbs.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, it made me look up like statistical metropolitan areas.
Sprawling.
Yeah, it made me look at metro areas because I was like, it these orders of magnitude. I was like, it's going from my hometown to Columbus, and you're like that many more people because my hometown had 12,000 people when I left, which is still sizable. It's going from where my mom used to work, which has 4,500 people as of 2020. Right. So, yeah.
No,
and
I get it.
I too would be starstruck if I had never been to a city like that.
I mean, I kind of feel it. Like, I'm from backwoods nowhere, and now I live in Columbus, which is not the most like metropolitan city, but it spans so much land.
Yeah, it goes forever.
Like, it's...
I don't remember.
Everything is so spread out.
Mhm.
I don't remember if I mentioned it on the podcast specifically, but I think I've told you guys at least the story about the city. The city I graduated from is not my hometown. It's about 30 minutes south of where I claim to be from. In high school, and my high school friend referred to my hometown and the two immediate cities on next to it as part of the cities, meaning the Twin Cities and the surrounding suburbs. And I just remember whipping my head around and being like, absolutely the fuck, it is not.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, my hometown is not small by any means. There's over 200,000 people there. But it has a very small town feel because it doesn't have big skyscrapers and stuff. But the land, like area-wise, it's huge. It is just outside of what is considered the suburbs in the metropolitan area. But she's from that much farther south, because it's still a 30-minute drive to Minneapolis, St. Paul. So she's from that much farther south that she considered where I came from as part of the cities. And I'm just like, no. So, like, I get what you guys are talking about, and, like, Rand's awe of increasing.
Yeah. I would be the same way if I ever went to, like, New York City.
Oh,
I know
yeah,
for a fact.
absolutely.
I'd be like, what the fuck? Surely there can't be a place this big. Surely a place this big cannot exist.
Right.
Yeah,
it is.
It was absolutely overwhelming when I went.
It's huge and overwhelming in the Spider-Man game.
Yep.
That I play twice a year. Because I love that game and it's awesome. So, like, I can only imagine going there.
Yeah, it's crazy going from small town life to a big city, even just to visit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is very relatable.
Perspective is insane when you think about it. You know, different perspectives on that kind of thing.
Because, when I went to New York, that was before I had moved here to Columbus, so I only knew small town life at that point. Like, I wasn't living in, the backwoods middle of nowhere, like when I was growing up in Alabama, but I still wasn't in any kind of metropolitan area. So, yeah, it's pretty
I like
overwhelming.
I like in thinking about that and thinking about going from those, small areas into the big ones and tied in. I feel like he would feel this way, whether he was being super paranoid or not. Like, if he was normal Matt, he would still probably think that, like, they were being cheated. You know what I mean? Because
Maybe.
I feel like Matt's only real connections to larger cities is, like, Fairlawn. Right?
Well, it's
as far as like his upbringing goes and stuff. So I feel like Matt would just be very suspicious of like city dwellers in general.
Yeah. Well, he didn't seem like all that distrustful and paranoid and everything until he got the dagger.
Yeah.
Like before then, he's just kind of like a troublemaker, and he keeps getting like these rude awakenings. But can you hear my cat?
I can.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why he does that.
No, it amuses me.
Clark, come here.
He said no.
Yeah.
I'm and he'll across the house.
Yeah, he's upstairs right now. He'll do it until until we go up there or we take whatever he has, because he's usually got a toy.
Oh.
That he's got, and
cat would do that. Before he passed away. He would sit at the bottom of the stairs and meow for her to make sure it was okay to come up, that the dog wasn't going to chase him, because Elsa liked to chase cats. And Mally he would stick up for himself, but he preferred to run. So he would wait for my sister to call him, but he'd sit at the basement stairs and meow just like that.
Yeah. Meow, meow. Like.
And he's usually playing, you said? With something?
He's got a toy, and he'll pick it up and hold it in his mouth and then do that.
Oh, that's so funny.
When it's not 4 a.m.
I've never had a cat that's been vocal during play.
Yeah.
They're all
he doesn't. It's not all the
really
time.
Quiet.
It's not all the time. It's if we both are in a room and he's not. Or like we are in a room and then we leave and he doesn't come with us, he'll do it. He'll start. And then he'll bring it up. Like if he's down here and we go upstairs, he'll go upstairs and then continue to hold the toy and then scream. I don't know.
Speaking of cats, I just pulled a cat claw out from being embedded in the blanket that's over my lap.
Wow.
This was probably courtesy of Pepper.
Probably. Yeah.
She
yeah.
likes
yeah.
So.
And he started doing it when we go from the living room to the kitchen as well. So.
Does he do it because he just forgets you're home and he's sad?
I don't know, because it's like it's not like he doesn't watch us everywhere we go.
Right.
I don't know. And anyway, he's down here now.
I think a noisy, clingy cat would enhance the story. Get Rand a cat.
I agree. Actually, they need a familiar. Yeah. What was I talking about? Matt and the Dagger. Before then, he's even when they meet the White Cloaks for the first time, he just wants to prank them.
Yep.
You know, he's not like super suspicious or anything. So
and now he's sitting here going straight to kill.
Yeah. Now he's ready to kill people.
Anyone I suspect might be suspicious of me first.
Right. So I don't know. We don't see, we don't know how Matt develops without the dagger because he's got the dagger.
So like Rand, who is daggerless, is already showing discomfort at being around so many people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and we can attribute that to their country upbringing. So how much worse is that going to be on Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we already know with Matt, the vibes are absolutely off.
Yeah. Rancid. It is also interesting now that they're in Caemlyn, and he says that the Ravens can take all the Aes Sedai to Shaiol Ghul. Like, okay, that's crazy. First of all, it is not Aes Sedai that have been hunting you this whole time. But then to get immediately corrected, I was like, that's so interesting. And maybe it's because of the proximity to an Aes Sedai in such a position of power, or whatever it is, right? Especially after all of the widespread distrust we've seen, and people are like super vocal about their distrust and dislike of Aes Sedai, to come to Caemlyn and then have it be like, shut up, watch your mouth.
And then
that was interesting.
And then maybe a page or two before that, depending on where it was at in the book, did he not say, let's not go to the inn, let's just go straight to Tar Valon?
Yep, he did.
Or Ilion. But my point is, he even suggested they don't even stay in Caemlyn and go straight to Tar Valon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, boy.
Yeah, he's pretty erratic right now.
Yeah, no, there is no such thing as Matt being in his right mind right now.
He's not thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Does he ever?
I mean...
Has he ever? I should say, has he ever? Up to this point, in the entirety of the book, has he ever?
Hasn't really seemed like it.
No. Even his dad knew he was going to pull a prank on someone he shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that leaves little hope for him. I'm just saying. Is there really much more to go on in this book? Or in this chapter?
Well, like I mentioned at the very beginning, I really like the how Caemlyn fits into Rand's conceptions of a city, like water fits into a jug. Yeah. That's a really neat turn of phrase that I've never encountered before. I really like it.
I do like that turn of phrase.
Like it just makes sense. And like he's heard stories, and then to have the details of Caemlyn like fill it in, like that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know what, Mr. Bunt? I agree. I agree. Greatest city on earth, sure. And everybody's selling fragments of Logain's cloak and sword.
Oh my god. That he hasn't even, like...
Right, you also have one? You also have one? Oh, you do as well.
So if I buy fragments from you and you and you, I can just put a whole sword together.
Right. Or do you think that if
and there'll still be people selling more fragments.
Right.
Do you think that I could build a bridge to sell you with all of these?
Right.
A white bridge?
Mm-hmm.
Mayhap.
Maybe even
Is the cloak white? Yeah, no, I thought it's very funny. And of course, there's going to be people who don't like that a bunch of people are here now, which is somebody said in it, and I think the previous chapter, that Caemlyn's already bursting at the seams. I'm like, how many people exist here then? Like in this world? because we've really only seen it's like concentrated in cities. There seems to be more people, and the bigger the cities get, the more people there are. But like a place like Caemlyn, if it's overflowing
because of all
like
the
how many,
travelers
yeah,
coming in.
like how many people?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, it's
mentioned
chock
by the
full of
Queen's Guard in
tourists.
my chapter. He's like, you think you've got a lot of travelers here? Caemlyn's bursting at the seams with them.
Yeah,
it's like the World Cup right now.
Yeah. It yeah, no, that was interesting. And so there's going to be like a whole range of responses, or from people who are like, just get out, to people who are being like, hey, I can sell you things.
Right.
See what's happening here? You see what happened? This depicts it. This shows it. Because presumably, I guess then Logain has already been presented to the queen. And they've done whatever they've done to him. If they're selling scraps and everything. So like, is Logain even there still? Is he being put on display like in the stocks? I don't know. But it is, I thought that was funny as well. Everybody's selling something to do with Logain.
See, I took it as like foreign merchants being like, yeah, these are scraps from the battlefield.
That's how I took it too.
Oh.
Because I feel like
they're still hyping it up, I think.
Like Bunt wouldn't have left when he did. If Logain had already come, he'd already been gone in Caemlyn.
I guess so. I thought I thought it was weird that everybody was talking about it, and then to have like pictures of the main scene already there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think the pictures are from his capture.
But no, but they specifically said presenting him to Queen Margaise.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, I thought it was
maybe
weird,
they're just, maybe it's just speculative.
Or, what it might look like, or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, so like I assumed then that the scraps of cloak and sword were like they took those and ripped them and shattered the sword or something.
Right.
That's what I thought. That would claim to have been happening, but I don't know.
I think it's like a mix of both. Like
probably
some of it is memorabilia from the war, and some of it is, it's not like real, any of you common folk are going to be in the throne room anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what it's going to look like when it happens.
Right. Yeah, and of course all the other crap, none of that's real. That's all grifters.
Yeah.
It's like a saddlebag or something.
Yeah. I've been rewatching Fairy Tale, and I come across this episode today where they are charlatans, and literally the guy introduced himself as G. Rifter.
Love that.
Wow.
Yeah. I love puns.
Wow.
Yeah. I love names that are puns.
And I'm like, well, I know where this episode's going, despite the fact that I've already watched the entire series at least once. I just have forgotten all these filler episodes. But I was like, gee, Rifter, how did I miss that the first time?
Like, hello, my name is Charles Layton.
Or what is it? What are those? Those the grifters from My Little Pony, Flim and Flam. They're twins.
Flim Flam? Yeah. That's funny.
Wow.
Yep, they're twins.
That's
old-timey 1930s Flim Flam. Literally, like, that's their whole gimmick.
That's pretty great.
That's Ace Attorney, the Ace Attorney games. The main prosecutor.
Yes.
The main prosecutor for the first trilogy. His name is Winston Payne.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I've seen some other names from Ace Attorney, but I didn't know that one. Yeah. That's amazing.
Or Red White, who is the CEO of Blue Corp. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Big fan of names that are puns. I'm like, obviously.
I'm gonna have to play those at some point.
Please do. I would love to be able to talk at you about something else.
I was going through Nintendo Store yesterday, and literally all different multiple sets of the Ace Attorney games are on sale. And I'm like, I didn't even finish them when I bought them on DS. I want them, but I never finished them. I don't think I got through the second case of the first game.
Yeah, they get pretty lengthy. Yeah, they get pretty lengthy.
I just gave up.
I don't play without guides, so
I do want to give it another whirl, but
Yeah,
I found another
have,
one that's more interesting at the moment.
Yeah, they have spoiler-free guides and everything, so that's what I use. I've played the games,
I know you have
4 times all the way through, but
and you still use guides.
Yeah, just because I forget everything. I forget the steps.
Fair.
But yeah, please play Ace Attorney. Mm-hmm. Listeners, if you like Ace Attorney or Fire Emblem, talk to me. Talk to me about those things, not this. No spoilers. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot in here. I kind of expected the chapter to be longer, honestly, since it's called Caemlyn and they're finally here. But it's just, moving on to the rest of it. So I assume that it's going to be like
cute little intro,
like a Caemlyn arc.
I absolutely missed the new chapter starting when I was doing my re-listen for it. So I went into the next chapter and thought it was all one chapter.
Yep,
I did too.
And I was talking to you about that, Will, and my initial excitement about that, and then how I realized I fucked it up. I do kind of wish that you had gotten the next chapter, but I'm also very excited to hear Will read it. So I guess it's a win-win.
It's fine.
Oh, with my terrible, inconsistent voice acting.
No, I love it. And actually, I just looked at the rest of our chapters left, and I have only 6 summaries to do before the end of the book. And the 6th one is chapter 53, which is the last chapter.
Yep.
Amazing.
So we're getting there.
So we have 6 episodes left after this, for this book.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect myself to commit to it this hard. My untreated and undiagnosed ADHD would have, if I didn't have you guys to keep me like on track for the first couple of episodes, I absolutely would have fallen off it completely.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, especially on my end.
Which we appreciate.
I mean, yes, you
got a lot of editing to do tomorrow.
A lot of work, but so does Flint. Again, in doing the transcripts and stuff, you guys are putting a lot into this. I love that. I appreciate it because it means I don't have to.
Right. Well, and it's important to me.
I know. So. And it is important to me, but I'm having a lot of issues with my own motivation for other things that this is something I don't have to worry about. I can read, I can do my summaries, and then I get to have fun talking with you guys.
Yeah, just come and chat and vibe.
Exactly.
And cry sometimes, maybe.
I told Will, or not Will, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that. I told my husband, Jay, the other day about me completely interrupting you with the ADHD thought of if white cloaks have nuns.
Yeah.
My husband, who went to Catholic schools in the Philippines and was taught by them, he laughed so hard he cried. He thought that was so goddamn funny. I'm like, Flint was talking about this, that, and the other thing, and I just randomly had this thought, and I just said it without any, I said it as I was having the thought. Do white cloaks have nuns? He's like, yeah, that's pretty par for the course for you, Al. But,
imagine how different this podcast would be if all 3 of us actually got medicated.
My antidepressants are already fighting for their lives. I can only imagine what would happen if I was on, ADHD meds. I think this would be a lot less funny, that's for damn sure.
We've just got a buffet of neurodivergence here.
Yeah.
All right, well, we about ready to wrap this one up?
Yes.
Dinner.
I'm late for D&D.
No.
I have messages from the husband. He wants food. And frankly...
Yeah, I already ordered DoorDash while we were doing this last chapter.
So does my stomach, so it's dinner time.
All right.
Alrighty. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening.
And tune in next time.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
thank you for listening to Easing the Badger. To continue reading along with us every other Tuesday, please make sure you subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else you find podcasts. Make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and a review where possible. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at EasingBadgerPod, and send us an email at easingthebadgerpod@gmail.com. Our link tree will be in the show notes. Theme music is Magic Tavern by Alexander Nakarada.